May 15th, 2026. Unfortunately for me, I can't record on the Internet Archive itself, which means I'm going to have to be reading this off my phone, where I can't scroll in as much. But this is just going to be me live reading the second book in the Binti series by Nadia Korafor, because I just read the first one today. It was pretty bad. Like, bad writing, but also so much unnecessary anti-blackness for literally no fucking reason, even though the author is black. Again, just like with women writers who are raging misogynists, being a minority and being part of a minority group does not mean you're not a bigot towards other people in that group. And Nadia Okorafor, unfortunately, just keeps being anti-black. So anyways, we're reading the second book in the Binti series. This is called Binti Home. The summary of the first one is actually, yeah, fine, I'll summarize it for you. It's badly written, so none of it actually makes sense, even though we could have done so many things to make it make sense. But the character Binti, I keep forgetting that that's actually her name because it's in first-person perspective, so I usually have trouble remembering the character's name if it's in first-person perspective. And the other book I just read by the same author yesterday that I finished is called Noor, and is also in first-person perspective, but that's not the main character's name. So if I keep forgetting that Binti is the character's name, that's why, because that one wasn't titled after the main character. The plot is Binti is supposedly from the Himba people here on Earth. I don't fucking think enough research was done on them, and it doesn't seem to be actually representing them in any way. It just really seems like sanitizing them and just fucking taking their name. And it just seems like cultural appropriation. I could go into detail, but you can read the first book for yourself and look at it and see it for yourself. We're just going to be reading the sequel, and I'm not going to even read the summary because, or maybe I should, because the summaries of these things keep lying to me. And by these things, I mean books by Nadia Korafor. So the summary is, the Hugo and Nebula award-winning series continues, and at this point, just like with the Murderbot Diaries, this only further confirms it. If a book wins the Hugo and Nebula awards, or one or the other, at this point that's a red flag for me. It's been a year since Binti and the Meduse Akwu enrolled at Umza University. A year since Binti was declared a hero for uniting two warring planets. A year since she abandoned her family in the dawn of a new day. What are you laughing at?
Googling at the Tumblr ship post and how this reads
exactly
like
that the one
summary would be.
The one that made me feel so fucking betrayed, seeing that absolute bullshit put on my dashboard. Want to just interrupt this and we'll just read that as a refresher. This is satire somebody just posted 3 hours ago as of me recording this video.
Oh, is it only 3 hours old?
Yeah, it's only 3 hours old. It's delightful satire and infuriating satire because I saw it on my dashboard and the level of betrayal I felt having that put on my dashboard before I got to the bottom of the post and realized it's literally satire is hilarious. Okay, so that's going to be read out. This will be our little entertainment break. So here you go. Make sure you say the name of the person who posted it.
The OP is Cheap Halloween Costume on Tumblr.
Thank you for this infuriating satire. It perfectly encapsulates it. I thought you were being serious and I felt so betrayed.
The iron hook slid free from his shoulder with a wet, metallic shriek. Something black and arterial splashed across the stones between them. The torturer stepped back instinctively, not out of mercy, out of surprise. The prisoner laughed, not loudly, worse than loudly, softly, like he had just remembered a private joke older than civilization. You still think pain is a language, he said. Another blow, this time across the mouth. Teeth cracked. Blood sheeted down his chin in long ribbons. The interrogator hissed through clenched teeth. Tell me where God went. The prisoner turned his head slowly. There was blood in his smile now. There are organisms, he said, living beneath Antarctic ice that have never seen the sun and have still learned how to eat. The room had gone very still. Somewhere in the dark, machinery groaned. The interrogator grabbed him by the jaw hard enough to bruise bone. You think this makes you immortal? The prisoner spat a clod of red onto the floor between them. No, he whispered. I think it makes you temporary. The torches flickered. For one impossible second, the interrogator became aware of his own pulse, the heat in his veins, the soft wetness of his eyes, the damp animal electricity inside every living thing. The prisoner watched realization bloom across his face and smiled wider, blood running between his teeth. You cannot threaten a creature from the dirt, he said, without returning to the dirt.
I thought it was
Excerpt.
returning to the dirt.
Oh, yeah. You cannot threaten a creature from the dirt, he said, with returning to the dirt. Excerpt from shit I just made up to exemplify how all this Tumblr prose sounds. Once again, this is by Cheap Halloween Costume on Tumblr. Bravo.
I think we need to make sure that Nadia Corafora didn't use Tumblr, because some of those fucking sentences could have just come out of Nor. And I haven't even gotten into all the problems in that, including the blatant repetition, like saying he bit into the goat meat like 5 times in a single small scene. He bit into the goat meat. He bit into the goat meat again. He took another bite of the goat meat. He took a bite of the goat meat. Over and over and over again. Anyways. Let's well, that was a fail. Oh, continuing to read the summary now that we've got our entertainment out of the way. That was satire. This is not satire. And now she must return home to her people with her friend Akwu, but her friend? Her friend. To face her family and her elders. Her experiences off-planet have changed her forever, and Binti will have to discover whether there is still a home for her on Earth. This was published, what are we going to say? This was published in 2017, the same year that All Systems Red came out. Chapter 1, there's not even a chapter title, but I will assume this is Chapter 1. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, I whispered. I was already treeing, the numbers whipping around me like grains of sand in a sandstorm. Wow! Wow! Like grains of sand in a sandstorm. Wow. That's not even the entire first sentence, because that's the second sentence. And now I felt a deep click as something yielded in my mind. It hurt sweetly, like a knuckle cracking or a muscle stretching. I sunk deeper. I cannot fucking stand when people say sunk instead of sank. It's annoying. It hurt sweetly, like a knuckle cracking or a muscle stretching. I sunk deeper, and there was warmth. I could smell the earthy aroma of the... You gotta just look up how I pronounce the actual name of the red ochre paste. I have dyslexia, by the way, so I can't even spell it because the letters are all blending together. How to pronounce that? Like, dyslexia is fucking annoying. Yeah, especially, like, even before you get into other languages pronounce letters different ways. Do you know how long I had to literally stare at that Animorphs book to figure out that Gaffinilan was spelled and pronounced Gaffinaland because all of those letters were literally never holding still. I literally had to hold the book up for like 10 minutes straight, directly in front of my eyeballs.
Oh, jeez.
We're looking at
Oh, jeez.
oh cheese.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, that's actually that's what I was going to guess. But I thought I was wrong. Okay, so it is pronounced oh cheese. I thought that was going to be completely incorrect, but alrighty. And let me zoom back out. I could smell the earthy aroma of the cheese I'd rubbed on my skin and the blood in my veins. The room dropped away. We're now on paragraph 2, everybody! Congratulations! The room dropped away. The old look on my mathematics professor Okpala's face dropped away. I was clutching my idan, the points of its stellated shape digging into the palms of my hands. "Oh my!" I whispered. Something was happening to it. I opened my cupped palms. If I had not been in a deep mathematical meditation, I'd have dropped it. I'd not have known not to drop it. My first thought was a ball of ants I'd once seen tumbling down a sand dune when I was about 6 years old. This was how desert ants moved downhill. I had run to it for a closer look, and squealed with disgusted glee at the undulating living mass of ant bodies. My idan was writhing and churning like that ball of desert ants now, the many triangular plates that it was made of flipping, twisting, shifting right there between my palms. The blue current I had called up, and yeah, we never got. The first book has no actual world building in it at all, just a fucking heads up for future writers. Simply saying that things exist in your setting and never giving us explanations of what they are, what their limitations are, and stuff like that, that's not world building, that's bad writing. It's not world building to simply say, dragons exist in this setting. You have to show us how they fit into your world, what they do, what they look like. You have to actually, build the world. It's not enough to simply slap a fucking dragon-shaped sticker in there and call it a day. You can't just say, oh, there's a thing in here called currents. I'm not going to explain what it is, though, what the limitations are, because then the plot can't do anything it wants with them. The blue current I'd called up was hunting around and between them like a worm. This was a new technique that Professor Okpala had taught me, and I'd gotten quite good at it over the last 2 months. She even called it the wormhole current because of the shape and the fact that you had to use a metric of wormholes to call it up. Breathe, I told myself. The suppressed part of me wanted to lament that my idan was being shaken apart by the current I was running through it, that I should stop, that I would never be able to put it back together. Instead, I let my mouth hang open, and I whispered the soothing number again. 55555. Just breathe, Binti, I thought. I felt a waft of air cross my face, as if something passed by. My eyelids grew heavy. I let them shut, ... and we have a little swirly symbol to indicate a new scene, or a scene break, whatever you call that. ... I was in, and this is in italics. This whole I'm scrolling down. Okay, we're not having another entire goddamn chapter in italics like we did in Nor. That was infuriating. Nope, just a little few paragraphs. ... I was in space. Infinite blackness, weightless, flying, falling, ascending, traveling through a planet's ring of brittle metallic dust. It pelted my skin, fine chips of stone. I opened my mouth a bit to breathe, the dust hitting my lips. Okay, whatever. Could I breathe? Living breath bloomed in my chest from within me. In my chest from within me. In my chest. And I felt my lungs expand, filling with it. I relaxed. Who are you? A voice asked. It spoke in the dialect of my family, and it came from everywhere. Binti Ekiopara Zuzu Dambun Kaipka of Namib. That is my name, I said. Pause. I waited. There's more, the voice said. That's all, I said, irritated. That's my name. No. The flash of anger that spurted through me was a surprise. Then it was welcome. I knew my own name. I was about to scream this when ... we get another line break. spurting anger. Ah, hello, Polychrome.
So why is the
What?
anger spurting through you? That's like a fucking liquid.
I don't know.
But not like
Look at this little kitty. You guys can't. Oh, I don't have the camera on. You can't actually see her. But imagine an adorable little tortoiseshell kitty cat who's almost full size. You want to purr for the camera? She said no. She's not even gonna look at me. You're a cutie. You're in my window. I gotta read. And then back to the other thing. ... I was back in the classroom, sitting before Professor Akpala. I was so angry, I thought. Why was I so angry? It was a horrible feeling, that fury. Back home, the priestess of the seven might have even called this level of anger unclean. Then one of my tentacle-like Akawoko twitched. Outside, did I forget to tell you that the aliens genetically modified her without her consent or knowledge, and then this wasn't, like, actually presented as a problem?
Yes.
And this wasn't even given as an excuse for why the fuck she's behaving so fucked uply?
It's not even the unemployed Callie.
Yeah, like she's not even being brainwashed. There were so many excuses we could have made to explain away her behavior in the first thing, but we don't do any of that. Even though they literally genetically modify her. Anyways, sucks to you. Whatever. Then one of my tentacle-like Aku twitched. Outside, the second sun was... Hold on, let me scroll back up to the fucking book cover. Because does it even... It doesn't. What? Okay, so the book cover is not even showing the actual character. Because at the end of the first book, she was genetically modified without her consent or knowledge by the jellyfish-like aliens so that her hair was replaced by, like, their 10 jellyfish tentacles like they have. But the book cover is just showing a regular person with black hair, not tentacle hair. So that shows you how much care and effort is being put into this for sure, because we can't even be bothered to show the thing on the cover that is like one of the most important things to happen to this fucking character. But you know, I guess that would be too much effort. Just basic photoshopping tentacles. Okay. Is she gonna get her hair back? Is the genetic modification gonna get reversed? Why isn't the cover actually reflecting the fucking character in the story? What's the point of having her on the cover if it's not the actual fucking character? I would like to know what her goddamn tentacle hair looks like, since she doesn't really care about it. There we go. Polychrome's also just kind of leaning against a phone and being slightly in the way. The fucking Tor / whoever's publishing this one, presumably it's also Tor, they didn't even Photoshop the model on the book cover to have tentacle hair, which is what she was genetically modified to have at the end of the first book. She doesn't have hair anymore. She has 10 jellyfish-like tentacles coming out of her head.
I mean...
And then the cover doesn't even show that.
Murderbot literally
I know.
walks away in sweatpants.
I know, but like... This is really fucking egregious. This is ridiculous. Hello, Polychrome! Polychrome's favorite thing to do when she wants attention is just lean into you with all of her weight, so she's making this difficult. Then, when she keeps doing it, she's literally shoving her face where the phone screen is. You don't gotta do that. You're in my way, silly baby. I'm trying to read. Look at her adorable little face. You gotta stop. Then she's rolling over now. Then one of my tentacle-like Akawoko twitched. Outside, the second sun was setting. Its shine blended with the other suns, flooding the classroom with a color I loved, a vibrant combination of pink and orange that the native people of Umza Uni called Natu Natu. Natu Natu bugs were an Umza insect who were a vibrant orange-pink that softly glowed in the dark. fun combination of colors. We need some jail. That needs to be more fucking used in the things. It's public domain. Jail, and I can't remember the other color's name. Starts with something or other. That's Jale. I can't remember what it's called though. The sunlight shined on my Idan, which floated before me in a network of current, a symmetry of parts. I'd never seen it
Shined. Sounds like it should have been shown.
Yes.
Just as a nitpick.
I'd never seen it disassemble like this, and making it do so had not been my intention. I'd been trying to get the object itself to communicate with me by running current between its demarcations. Okpala claimed this often worked, and I wanted to know what my Idan would say. I had a moment of anxiety, frantically thinking, can I even put it back together? For people who didn't read the first one, since I didn't actually summarize the first story, Idan is in italics, and it means it's pretty much a good luck charm that is secretly ancient alien technology that she found by accident as a kid. Oh, you're a cutie. Then I watched with great relief as the parts of my Idan that had detached slowly, systematically reattached. Whole again, the Idan set itself down on the floor before me. Thank the seven, I thought. Both the blue from the current I still ran around it and the bright Nitu shined on Okpala's downturned face. She had an actual notebook and pencil in hand, so earth basic. She was writing frantically, using one of the rough, thick pencils she'd made from the branch of the tamarind-like tree that grew outside the mathematics building. Singular mathematics building? In book one, we were told the entire planet is a university and there's a thing called Math City. It's not just a single building, you got entire cities. Now we're saying mathematics building singular. You fell out of the tree, she said, not looking up. This was how she referred to that moment when you were treeing and then suddenly were not. Also, again, for people who didn't read the first one, treeing is what these people do for fun to go into a mathematic meditation state where you think of, like, I don't know, some really complicated equation and then you split it in half and you keep doing that, or something like that. This was how she referred to that moment when you were treeing and then suddenly were not. What was that about? You finally had the Idan willing to open itself. That's what it was doing? That was a good thing, then? That's a question. That's a weird question to say. She only chuckled to herself, still writing. I frowned and shook my head. I don't know, ... Something happened. I bit my lip. Something happened. When she looked up, she caught my eye, and I had a moment where I wondered whether I was her student or a piece of research. I allowed my current to fade, shut my eyes, and rested my mind by thinking the soothing equation of f x in parentheses equals f minus, or f times negative x in parentheses. I don't know how you read math equations out loud. F parentheses x, meaning f times x, equals f times negative I don't think that's how that works, but whatever. I touched the Idan, thankfully solid again. Are you all right, Professor Okpala asked. Despite medicating with the soothing equation, my head had started pounding. Then a hot rage flooded into me like boiled water. Ugh! I don't know, I said, rubbing my forehead, my frown deepening. I don't think what happened was supposed to happen. Something happened, Professor Okpala. It was strange. Maybe if you actually communicate besides simply saying something happened, you'd get somewhere. Now Professor Okpala laughed. I clenched my teeth, boiling. Again, such fury. It was unlike me. And lately it was becoming like me. It happened so often. Now it was happening when I treed? How was that even possible? I didn't like this at all. Still, I'd been working with Professor Okpala for over 1 Earth year, and if there was one thing I should have learned by now, it was that working with any type of Idan, no matter the planet it had been found on, meant working with the unpredictable. Everything, okay, because I guess Idan means, like, specifically a piece of random alien technology or whatever. None of this was ever properly explained. Everything comes with a sacrifice, Akpala liked to say. Every Idan did something different for different reasons. My Idan was also poisonous to Meduse. I don't know if I'm supposed to be pronounced. It is spelled Muduse because like jellyfish are referred to as like Medusae something or others. I can't remember the scientific thing, but am I supposed to be pronouncing that E at the end as Medusae or just Meduse? A Medusae? There's so many ways, but I'm just gonna call them Medusae, I guess, because that sounds plural. My Adan was also poisonous to Medusae. It had been what saved my life when they'd attacked on the ship. It was why Akwu never came to watch any of my sessions with Akpala. However, touching it had no such effect on me. I'd even chanced touching my Akwu... Blah. I'd even chanced touching my Akuoko with my Idan. And the Akuoko is the jellyfish alien's name for their tentacles, which is also her hair now, but not on the book cover, because we're going to Photoshop it to make it look like she's wearing Ochi's? I can't remember if there's an E in, yeah. We're going to Photoshop it to make it look like somebody's wearing that by simply putting the person in grayscale and then putting an overlay of reddish orange. But we won't Photoshop fucking jellyfish tentacles, even though that's like the character's whole thing now.
And that would be cool.
Yeah, that would look cool. But we're not doing that. And also the fact that they're just Photoshopping it to make it look like the model is wearing this just, again, feels fucking just like cultural appropriation. Like you couldn't get anybody to actually model it correctly. Again, I'm begging to know, were any of the actual... Hello, Polychrome. Was anybody from the Himba culture actually fucking consulted for book one, or did they get to fact check it or anything? Because there's a lot of things that just makes it seem like sanitizing their culture for marketability. Africa is not a country, it is an entire fucking continent. And just... I'd even chanced touching my Akuoka with my Idan. It was the one thing that let me know that part of me may now have been Medusae, but I was still human. That was isolated deconstruction, Professor Akpala said. I've only heard of it happening, never seen it. Well done. She said this so calmly. If she's never seen it happen before, why is she acting like I did something wrong? I wondered. Is she acting like you did something wrong? Because that has not been the fucking vibe I'm getting. I wondered. I flared my nostrils to calm myself down. No, this wasn't like me at all. My tentacle twitched again. Want to purr again for the camera? Or microphone? She's nuzzling it. Aw, little baby yawn. I keep saying specific word. No, don't bite it. I keep saying specific words, and she like looks over and just rams her head into me. You're so cute. So cute. No, this wasn't like me at all. My tentacle twitched again, and a singular, very solid thought settled in my mind. Akwu is about to fight. An electrifying shiver of rage flew through me, and I jumped. Who was trying to bring him harm? Straining to sound calm, I said, Professor, I have to go. May I? Okay, I have a question. We're meant to believe that these professors and shit are like good people. Why isn't she just saying, hey, I think I have developed a telepathic connection with my Meduse friend guy? I think somebody's attacking him. Why would you not say that? She paused, frowning at me. Professor again, the fucking dyslexia. Okay. P-A-L-A, not O-P-K-A-L-A. Akpala was I also am reading this on my phone, and it's a PDF, so I can't actually increase the font size. Professor... Huh?
If it's
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I can fucking... No, it's the Internet Archive, but I remembered I forgot I can make my phone go sideways, so I can... Okay. If I hold my phone the other way, I can rotate it slightly more. Professor I'm going to keep saying that wrong because I'm reading it wrong. Professor Okpala was Tamazite, and from what my father said of selling to the Tamazite, they were a people of few but strong words. This may have been a generalization, but with my professor it was accurate. I knew Professor Okpala well. There was a galaxy of activity behind that frown. However, I had to go, and I had to go now. She held up a hand and waved it. Go. I got up and nearly crashed into the potted plant behind me as I turned awkwardly toward my backpack. Careful, she said, you're weak. I gathered my backpack and was off before she could change her mind. Professor Okpala was not head professor of the mathematics department for nothing. She'd calculated everything probably the day she met me. It was only much, much later that I realized the weight of that brief warning. That you're weak? Also, that's not how math works, and not how math professors work. I took the solar shuttle. With the second sun setting, the shuttle was at its most charged and thus its most powerful. The university shuttle was snake-like in shape, yet spacious enough to comfortably accommodate 50 people the size of Aqua. Its outer shell was made from the molted cuticle of some giant creature that resided in one of the many Umza forests. I had heard that the body of the shuttle was so durable, a crash wouldn't even leave a scratch on it. It rested and traveled on a bed of narrow, quote-unquote, narrow escape, slick green oil secreted onto a trackway by several large pitcher plants growing beside the station. I'd always found those huge black plants terrifying. They looked like they'd eat you if you got too close, and they surrounded themselves with a coppery stink that smelled so close to blood that the first time I came to the station I had what I later understood was a panic attack. Well, that's a weird thing to be telling us, considering she didn't really seem to give a fuck about all the people that were massacred on the ship with her, and we weren't given any excuses to make up for it. Again, she was literally genetically modified by these people. We could have just said she's being brainwashed, but nope. I'd stood on the platform staring blankly as I held that smell in my nose. Then came the flashes of memory from that time so vivid. I could smell the freshly spilled blood. Memories from when I was in the dining room of a ship in the middle of outer space where everyone had just been viciously murdered by the Medusae. Again, that was like barely important in the first story at all. That could have just been removed and nothing would have changed because it doesn't actually fucking affect her. I had not ridden the shuttle that day. I didn't ride it for many weeks, opting to take Swift Transport, a sort of hovering bus that was actually much slower and used for shorter journeys. When I couldn't stand the slowness and decided to try the solar shuttle again, I'd pinched my nose and breathed through my mouth until I got on board. Once we started moving, the smell went away. Hello, Polychroma. She dive bombs my hand. You are so cute. A native operated the scanner and I held her my astrolabe to scan, a thing we still haven't been given any explanation for, because Nadia Corafor, like Martha Wells, like many other bad writers, including, but not limited to, Stephen Moffat, some Star Wars author I forget the fucking name of, Russell T Davies, etc., think that not doing world building makes them clever. It just makes you lazy. The fact that we're referring to this person as a native, and that's all, is also not fucking good. She narrowed her wide blue eyes and looked at me down her small nose, as if she didn't see me take the shuttle often enough to know my schedule. She batted one of my akuoko with a finger. Her hands were bigger than my head. Then she rubbed the cheese between her fingers and motioned me to enter the shuttle's cabin. I sat where I always sat, in the section for people my size, near one of the large round windows, and strapped myself in. The shuttle traveled 500 to 1,000 miles per hour, depending on how charged it was. I'd be in Weapons City in 15 minutes, and I hoped it wasn't too late, because Aqua was planning to kill his teacher. Yes, so we mentioned a singular math building, but now we're going to Weapons City. Because one of the things this university does that in book 1 we're just supposed to not care about is they build weapons, including probably biological weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And we're just kind of supposed to be fine with that. Really fucking weird political thing to state. And we have a line break again. The moment the house-sized lift rumbled open, I ran out, my sandaled feet slapping the smooth, off-white marble floor. The room was vast and high-ceilinged with rounded walls, all cut into the thick, tooth-like marble. Tooth-like marble. Do you mean white? Marble doesn't look like teeth. Marble looks like marble. Tooth-like marble. Okay. Is it what just a weird fucking way to describe it. Is it actually made of tooth or is it marble? Like, this is pointless. I coughed, my lungs burning. Juan, a Medusa-like person, was feet away, engulfed in a great lavender plume of its breathing gas. It didn't have Aqua's hanging tentacles, but Juan still looked like a giant version of the jellyfish who lived in the lake near my home on Earth. Juan also spoke Aqua's language of Medusa. I'd been down here plenty of times to meet Aqua, so it knew me too. Juan, tell me where Aqua is, I demanded in Medusa. It puffed its gas down the hallway. There, Juan said, presenting to Professor Dima against Jalal today. I gasped, understanding. Thanks, Juan. But Juan was already heading to the lift. I pulled my wrapper above my ankles and sprinted down the hallway. I don't know what a wrapper is either. To my left and right, students from various parts of the galaxy were working on their own final projects of protective weaponry, the assignment this quarter. Aqua's was body armor, its close classmate Jalal's was electrical current. Also, the fact that we're referring to that character Juan with its pronouns is not a reflection of that character's actual pronouns. We just dehumanize aliens until the main character likes them, and then they get gendered pronouns. That's what we did with Aqua in the first one. Aqua was referred to as it when Binti didn't randomly decide they're friends now, and then started referring to Aqua as he. Also, we got some completely pointless gender essentialism in book 1 because when she first starts being able to understand the jellyfish people, we're told that one of them had a higher pitched voice, like a female. And then that person was never an actual character, and there was no point in saying that besides just casually upholding gender essentialism and human-centric ideas of sexual dimorphism that's not even fucking correct. Aqua and Jalal were taught together, stayed in the same dorm, and worked closely together on their projects, and today they were being tested against each other, as was the way of UMZA weapons education. I was fascinated by the competitive push and pull of weapons learning, but I was glad mathematics was more about harmony. Aqua being Aqua, a Medusa of rigid cold wanna grab me a bottle of water? Of rigid cold honor, focus, and tradition, loved the program. Hold on, getting a drink. Okay. The problem... Oh, bye, Polygram. Okay, she left. She left to go nuzzle another cat. The problem was that Aqua hated its professor, and Professor Dima hated Aqua. Aqua was Medusa, and Professor Dima, a human woman, was Kush. Their people had hated and killed each other for centuries. Tribal hatred lived, even in UMZA Uni. And today that hatred, after simmering for a year, was coming to a head. I really don't like the way that the word tribal was used in the first story either, because it's just only ever being used as a negative, and it's just like, that's, you understand the racism there, right? But apparently not. I reached the testing space just as Akwu, encased in a metallic skin, brought forth its white and sharp stinger and pointed it at Professor Dima. Feet away, Professor Dima stood, carrying a large, gun-like weapon with both her hands and a snarl on her lips. This was not the way final exams were supposed to go. Akwu, what are you doing? Jalal demanded in Medusa. She stood to the side, clutching a series of what looked like thick, fire-tipped sticks with her mantis-like claws. You'll kill her! Let us finish this once and for all, Akwu growled in Medusa. Let me end you. Medusa have no respect, Akwu's professor said in Kush. Why they allowed you into this university is beyond me. You're unteachable. I've tolerated your insulting remarks all quarter. Let me end you. Your people should not plague this university, Akwu said. My lungs were laboring from the gas Akwu was copiously pluming out as, oh, we're going back to using its pronouns for Akwu. Alright. What is narrative consistency? We don't need that here. As it prepared to attack its professor. If it didn't stop doing this, the entire room would be filled with it. I could see Professor Dima's eyes watering as she resisted coughing as well. I knew Akwu. It was doing this on purpose, enjoying the strained look on Professor Dima's face. Okay, if this is supposed to be like a super prestigious university, and you know that some of your students just automatically breathe out gases that are like toxic to other people, then there's two options here. Either the people who breathe out the toxic gas will wear some kind of filter that makes it safe for other people, or the people who it's toxic to wear masks. Why is everybody just doing this without any kind of filter? That's just unsafe. Because, like, this is just Akwu breathing. They do this all the time. If you're in an enclosed space with them, you're just gonna be breathing that in. Bad writing. Let me get a drink. Phone, stop being dumb. I only had seconds to do something. I threw myself before Akwu, pressing myself to the floor before its Akuoko, which hung just below its weaponized casing. I looked up at Akwu. Its tentacles were soft and heavy on the side of my face. Medusa immediately understand prostration. Akwu, hear me, I said in Kush. Since arriving at the university, I'd taught Akwu to speak Kush and my language of Oti, I think, okay, we were pronouncing the J like a Achihimba? I think so. Achihimba? And my language of Achihimba, and it hated the sound of both. My theory is that this was partially due to the fact that for Akwu the sound of any language was inferior to Medusa. On top of this, Akwu had to produce the words through the tubes between its Akuoko that blew out the gas it used to breathe in air-filled atmospheres, and doing so was difficult and felt unnatural. Speaking to Akwu in Kush was irritating to it, and thus the best way to get its attention. I called up a current, treeing faster than I ever could have back home. I'd learned much from Professor Akpala in the last year. My Akuoko tickled, the current touching them and then reaching for Akwu's Akuoko. Suddenly I felt that anger again, and some part of me deep down firmly accused, "Unclean, Binti, you are unclean!" I gnashed my teeth as I fought to stay in control. When I could not, I simply let go. My voice burst from me loud and clear in Kush and shouted, "Stop! Stop it right now!" I felt my Akuoko standing on end, writhing like the clusters of mating snakes I often saw in the desert back home. I must have looked like a crazed witch. I felt like one too. Why doesn't she have the fucking tentacle hair on the book cover? Why is the book cover just lying? Immediately, Akwu brought down its stinger, stopped pluming gas, and moved away from me. "Stay there, Binti," it said. "If you touch my casing, you will die." Professor Dima brought down her weapon as well. Ouch! Hello, Polychrome. Stabbing me in the foot. You gonna nuzzle him? Silence. I lay there on the floor, mathematics cartwheeling through my brain, current still touching my only true friend. Are you stepping on the button? Your foot is on the button. My only true friend on the planet even after a year. Yeah, because it was part of the group that massacred all the other people you were friends with. But we don't really seem to care about that. I don't know why that was even a fucking plot point that they massacred everybody on the ship. If we're not actually supposed to care about that, if we're not supposed to take that seriously, then it would have been so fucking easy to say that she was going to the university on a single person automated thingy. And ouch, you're stabbing me. That was supposed to be like in stasis or anything like that. Pro tip, don't have characters we're supposed to like massacre a bunch of people, including literal children, if you want us to like them. Especially when there's 50 million other things you could be doing to accomplish the same plot point of Binti is in space alone with a bunch of jellyfish aliens. It's bad writing. I felt the tension leave the room, leaving myself too, finally. Tears of relief fell from the corners of my eyes as my strange random anger drained away. My Akuoko stopped writhing. There were others in the cavernous workspace, watching. They would talk. Word would spread, and this would be another reminder to students, human and non-human, to keep their distance from me, even if they liked me well enough. That is the most absurd fucking thing I've ever goddamn heard. This is an entire alien planet university with so many different fucking species on it, and I'm supposed to believe that this is just unfucking realistic. Out of all the species here, and I'm supposed to believe that this is unheard of and just crazy. No, that's not how this works. Again, bad world building. What little world building there is doesn't match what we're actually supposed to fucking accept. Aqua's close classmate Jalal put down her weapons and hopped back. Professor Dima threw her gun to the floor and pointed at Aqua. Your casing is spectacular. You will leave it here and download your recipe for it to my files. But if we meet outside this university where I am not your teacher and you are not my student, one of us will die and it will not be me. Okay, you need to fire your fucking teacher, guys. We were like, what is going on here? Are you hearing this? Are you listening at all? The teacher's literally just threatening the life of their student. You need to fire her. You need to throw her in jail. Is this or is this not a fucking school? Throw her in jail. I heard Aqua curse at her in Medusae so deep that I couldn't understand exactly what it said. But before I could admonish Aqua's crudeness, Professor Dima stretched up her weapon and shot at Aqua. It made a terrible boom that shook the walls and sent students flying. Except Aqua. The wall directly to its left now had a hole larger than Aqua's 9-foot-tall, 5-foot-wide jellyfish-like body. There were too many dashes. That was like almost all dashes. Chunks and chips of marble crumbled to the floor and dust filled the air. You didn't miss, Aqua said in Kush. Its tentacles shook and its dome vibrated. Laughter. You need to fire her. Throw her in jail. What is happening? Minutes later, Aqua and I left the Weapons City Inverted Tower 5. Why is that all a goddamn proper noun? Me with ringing ears and a headache, and Aqua with a grade of outstanding for its final project in Protective Gear 101. Is that supposed to be a funny joke? I guess so. Once on the surface, I looked at Aqua, wiped marble dust and ochis from my face, and said, I need to go home. I'm going to go on my pilgrimage. I felt the air close to my skin. Once I got back to my dorm room and washed up, I'd reapply my ochis. I'd take extra time to palm roll a thick layer onto my akuoka. Why? Aqua asked. I'm unclean because I left home, I thought. If I go home and complete my pilgrimage, I'll be cleansed. The 7 will forgive me and I'll be free of this toxic anger. Of course, I didn't say any of this to Aqua. Are we not going to acknowledge that this is telepathic anger she's picking up from Aqua because she was genetically modified? Or are we just supposed to ignore that? Like, obviously this is not your anger. This is Aqua's anger that is being transmitted to you. Through cosmic fucking vibrations. My phone is trying to escape into the couch. Of course, I didn't say any of this to Aqua. I only shook my head and stepped into the field of soft water-filled maroon plants that grew in the field over the inverted Tower 5. Sometimes I came here and sat on the plants, enjoying the feeling of buoyancy that reminded me of sitting on a raft in the lake back home. I'll come too, Aqua said. I looked at it. You'll land in a Kush airport if you're even allowed on the ship, and they'll ... The treaty, it said. I'll go as an ambassador for my people. No Medusa has been on Earth since the war with the Kush. I think I just need to look up how that word's pronounced as well. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. Look up how to pronounce... Tell me when you're ready. Khoush.
Not Kush.
I don't know. We're double checking that. That's what I would assume.
Kush.
Oh, okay, I'm right again. Okay. But if the Kush make war, I will stir it with them, like you stir your cheese. I grunted. No need for that, Aqua. The peace treaty should be enough, especially if Umza Uni endorses the trip, and you'll come with me. I smiled. You can meet my family, and I can show you where I grew up and the markets and... Yes, this is a good idea. I hope to fuck that when they get there, all of the people whose children were on the ship with her, that had their children murdered in cold blood, throw tomatoes, at the very goddamn least. Are we ever going to acknowledge that the children that were massacred? Okay, again, if you're not going to take that seriously, don't do it at all. We could have just said she was in a fucking single person automated thing where she was in stasis and they woke her up. Bad writing. Bad writing. Professor Akpala would certainly approve. A harmonizer harmonized. Bringing Aqua in peace to the land of the people its people had fought would be one of the 10 good deeds Akpala had insisted I perform within the academic cycle as part of being a good math student. It would also count as the great deed I was to do in preparation for my pilgrimage. Is this chapter 2? Is this an entire blank page in the middle of the book? It's an entire blank page. Cool. Literally, classic tour. Okay, we're not titling the chapters for some reason, but this is presumably chapter 2 now, and the title is Humans, period, always performing, and then there's not a period after that. Alrighty. 2 weeks later, I powered up the transporter and said a silent prayer. The 7 were in the soil of my home, and I was planets away from that home. Would they even hear me? I believed they would. The 7 could be in many places at once and bring all places with them, and they would protect me because I was a Himba returning home. Still, my transporter did nothing. It stood there, out of breath. I stood there, out of breath, staring... Okay, hold on. I stood there, out of breath, staring at the coin-sized flat stone. I'd rolled my hard-shelled pod into the lift and then across the dormitory hall to the entrance. The effort had left me sweaty and annoyed. Now this. The shuttle was a half-mile... Are we just repeating the scene from the very first thing, even down to the it's a half a mile away? Also, she got a full fucking scholarship. They even paid for her to come here, and you're telling me that they haven't given her a new fucking suitcase roller? The shuttle was a half-mile walk down the uneven, rocky pathway. I'd been looking forward to the fresh air before the days on the ship. However, the walk wouldn't be so pleasant if I had to push my heavy traveling pod up the pathway. I knelt down and touched the transponder again. Nothing. I pressed it hard, knowing this wouldn't yield any better result. It wasn't the pressure of the touch that activated it, but the contact with my index finger. Still nothing. My face grew hot and I hissed with anger. I brought my foot back and kicked the transporter as hard as I could. It shot into the bushes. I froze with my mouth hanging open, astonished by my actions and the deep satisfaction they yielded. Then I ran to the bushes and started pushing the leaves near the ground this way and that, hoping to spot the tiny thing. Okay, I'm getting really annoyed. Are we really just supposed to pretend not to know that this is very blatantly a result of the genetic modification? Or at the very least, a result of her PTSD, but I don't think we're supposed to actually acknowledge that. Like, are we just gonna ignore the genetic modification and telepathic link? Don't do that. You'll get all dirty before you're even on the ship, someone said from behind me as the strong hands grasped my shoulders and gently pulled me back. It was Haifa, a Kush student who was also studying weapons with Aqua. Let me help you. All the way to the shuttle station, I said with a laugh. I've been studying all day, she said. I need the exercise. She was wearing a tight green bodysuit made of a material so thin that I could see the bulging muscles on her long, graceful arms and legs. Her astrolabe was attached to a clip sewn into her suit. As with the astrolabes of almost every student in my dorm, I'd tuned up its design and performance, and now hers shined like polished metal and operated in a way more suited to her meticulous plotting way of thinking. Those are like antonyms. That's just also rude as fuck. Haifa was much taller than me and one of those people who found motion so easy that she couldn't resist moving all the time. The day I met her, after asking me many questions about my Akaoko, she'd told me that she'd... Oh. Okay. Cool. Great. Awesome. The day after I... What are you cats doing? The day after I met her... Huh? The day after I met her, after asking me many questions about, I really hope I don't regret this, after many questions about my Akaoko, she'd told me that though she'd always been female, she'd been born physically male. Later, when she was 13, she'd had her body transitioned and reassigned to female. She'd joked that this process took longer than my getting stung in the back with a stinger to become part Medusae. But it's why I get to be so tall, she'd bragged. Are we going to actually have any discussions on the non-consensual genetic modification, though? Or are we just going to compare that to transitioning for some reason? Like, great that there is a trans woman character, but also, like, that's a really stereotyped way to phrase all that?
I get to be tall because of my...
Yeah.
Of being born a man? As stated in the book.
Every morning she jogged several miles and then lifted logs at the lumber yard up the road. The better to compete with people from other places, she now said, stepping to my pod. Not easy being a human in the weapons department. We're so weak. Plus I owe you, she said, gesturing to her astrolabe. She started rolling my pod before I could say yes, her thick black braids bouncing against her back. As she went, I swiped I keep forgetting how to pronounce it, cheese from my forehead with my index finger, knelt down and touched my finger to the red umza soil, grounding the otige. I keep forgetting. Oh, cheese. It's because the fucking dyslexia. We have T, J, and I all next to each other. That's terrible. Oh, cheese. Into it. Thank you, I whispered. I ran to catch up with Haifa, clutching my satchel to the side of my long, silky red-orange wrapper. You think your family is going to like your new hairstyle? Haifa asked as she pushed and rolled the pod over the rocky ground. A large succulent plant pulled in one of its branches as we passed it. It's not hair, I said. I know, she said, rolling her eyes. Can't believe you allowed the Medusae to do that to you. Okay. Is nobody else aware that she didn't consent to this at all? Are we going to... Is she going to get to reverse it? Are we going to have that conversation right now? I really fucking hope so, because, like, consent matters. Being genetically modified against your will is not something to take lightly, especially because we're fucking talking about black people here. I know, she said, rolling her eyes. Can't believe you allowed the Medusae to do that to you. Now you're Himba and one of those freaks. But, whoa, what the fuck? What do you mean? So she's saying that being Himba is shameful? Why are we doing racism against aliens and not even... Is the main character gonna have any problem with any of these things? Now you're Himba and one of those freaks. But I suppose it's better than dying. Alright, that's not... What do you think she's gonna do next?
Not respond in any way that actually addresses anything.
I chuckled. Much
why?
better. Yeah. Oh, right. What even? So she's just been faced with, like, 3 separate microaggressions. No, because microaggressions is just this thing where it's, like, so now saying, oh, that thing you definitely did not consent to, oh, you asked for that, which she didn't, and that it's a bad thing, that you're ugly now and all that shit, but that's going unsaid, and saying now you're Himba and one of those freaks, as though being Himba is a bad thing, and saying she's a freak for being part of an alien species that is fully people that she didn't actually agree to be. So, like, but instead of addressing any of that, it's just, I chuckled. And then there's no internal narration at all of, like, I chuckled to cover my pain. I forced out a chuckle while inside it felt like my insides were shriveling. Like, she just fucking insulted you for being Himba and being forcibly genetically modified against your will twice. And we're not supposed to think any of that's bad, apparently, because the character's just laughing and saying, yeah, being genetically modified against my will is much better than dying. But, okay. How come you're going home so soon anyway? She asked. I stepped over a particularly large stone. It's just time. She looked over her shoulder at me as she rolled my pod. Why isn't that monster here to help you? Does he know you're going? I rolled my eyes. I'm meeting Aquu at the launch port. How did it score top of the class on the quarter final? I hear it paid off the professor. Everybody's just switching back and forth between he and it pronouns for Aquu, and there will probably never be a discussion of that despite us having a trans character right here. So it's not like the author doesn't know we exist, so what is happening? Like, is this our hint that Aquu canonically uses he, it pronouns, or what? Because that's not what's coming across. I laughed, nearly jogging to keep up now. Don't believe everything you hear. Or just carry a big gun at all times so that people will always tell the truth, she said, giving the pod a push. About 100 meters from the shuttle station, Haifa decided to outdo herself by picking up my pod and sprinting with it. When she reached the front of the shuttle, she put the pod down, did a graceful backflip. What the fuck? A fucking backflip. And gleefully jumped up and clicked her heels. A few people waiting at the platform shuttle applauded with whistles, flashes of light, and slapping tentacles. Haifa took a dramatic bow for them. I am amazing, she declared as I walked up to her. A person who looked like a 2-foot-tall version of a praying mantis clicked its powerful forelegs. In a sonorous voice it said, humans, always performing. So I guess that's where the non-chapter title comes from, even though that doesn't really mean anything, but okay. The shuttle arrived, gliding on the smooth green oil path, and the 5 people waiting crowded quickly on board. I was the last to board, pinching my nose to avoid the blood smell of the pitcher plants. Haifa loaded my pod inside for... Hold on. Why didn't she just take home one of the masks that the Medusae had in book 1 that smelled like flowers? Why didn't she just take one of those home with her? They wouldn't let her keep it? I was the last to board, pinching my nose to avoid the blood smell of the pitcher plants. Haifa loaded my pod inside for me, gave me a tight hug, and leapt through the large round shuttle window near the entrance like a missile. Moments later, the shuttle got moving. It never waited for long. "Tell Akwu I send my insults!" Haifa shouted as the shuttle passed her. She started to run alongside the shuttle, and for a moment she kept up. "I will," I said. See, that could be funny if, this weren't, why are we supposed to be laughing at people just being hateful towards somebody based on their species? Because obviously nobody gives a fuck about all the children who are massacred. So why are... Huh? Yeah, there was... Whatever. "Safe travels, Binti. No fear, Master Harmonizer. You belong in space," Haifa shouted, and then the shuttle left her in its wake of blasted air, which blew her thick braids back. Holding onto the rail beside me, I turned and watched as we sped away from her. She did one more flip and waved enthusiastically. Then she was gone because we reached the day's cruising speed of 700 miles per hour. I stood there for a moment, feeling the usual moment of lightheadedness as the shuttle stabilized its passengers, and then I quickly went to my assigned window seat. I had to squeeze past 2 furry individuals, and they protested when my ochis rubbed off on their furry feet and one of my akuoko brushed one in the furry face. That keeps happening. I don't know why their train stations are so fucking crowded. Like, every time, in the first story too, she's getting onto the shuttle and her hair was slapping people in the face. And it's like, this is space age shit. You got multiple aliens coming and going at all times. Are you telling me you have no room on these fucking things? And not even in a, we have to be efficient to save space so it's super crowded. They don't seem to be concerned about that at all. Why are we just making things so fucking small that you can't get to your seat without slapping people in the face with your hair and shit? "Sorry," I said in response to their growls. "We've heard about you," one said in gruff Medusae. "You're a hero, but we didn't know you were so... soily." "It's not soil, it's..." I sighed and smiled and just said, "Thank you." Both their astrolabes began to sing. They grabbed them and began another conversation among themselves, and 4 others projected before them in a language I didn't understand. I sat down and turned to the window. "Polychrome, come here. You don't need to step on food." 15 minutes later, when we stopped in Weapon City, I met up with Akwu, who was coming from a meeting with his professor. Somehow, the two hadn't killed each other, and I was thankful. I have the hiccups now. And I was thankful. One day the Medusae and the Kush will get over themselves, I thought. The new treaty was a good start. An hour later, we arrived at the launch station, and that's when I began to feel ill. Well, I should fucking hope so, because the only other time you've ever been in space, everybody was murdered directly in front of you. So, she better be feeling some fucking side effects. Line break. Or scene break, whatever you call it. The 3 University Medical Center doctors who'd examined me said I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of what had happened on the ship last year. For the first few weeks I was okay, but eventually I started having nightmares, day terrors. I'd see red and then Haru's chest bursting open. Sometimes just looking at Aqua made me want to vomit, though I never told it this was happening. Why not? You two literally started off with it constantly threatening to murder you. Pretty sure you can be honest about the sight of it makes you nauseous. And then, Aqua's not some adorable little baby alien who's never done anything wrong. It literally threatened her life multiple times. Viciously. And then there were the random instances of intense, focused fury that invaded my usually calm mind. Okay, so that is a result of the PTSD, but also it can't be chalked up as that only because she randomly magically knew through a blatant telepathic link that Aqua was getting into a fight. Eventually, Aqua and I were ordered by the Departments of Mathematics and Weapons to see therapists. Aqua never mentioned how its sessions went, and I didn't ask. You don't ask a Medusae about such things. I doubt it told any of its family either. In turn, Aqua never asked about my sessions. Are we going to talk about, like, toxic masculinity and shit like that? I don't think so. My therapist was named Saidia Nuanye. She was a short, squat Kush woman who liked to sing to herself when no one was around. I learned this on my first visit to her office. It was in Math City, so a 5-minute walk from my class. I was uncomfortable that day. Similar to the Meduse in my family, one does not go to a stranger and spill her deepest thoughts and fears. You go to a family member, and if not, you hold it in, deep, close to the heart, even if it tore you up inside. Okay, so good. We are acknowledging that, like, this is not good for your mental health. However, I wasn't home and the university was not making seeing a therapist a choice, it was an order. Plus, despite the fact that it made me extremely uncomfortable, I knew I needed help. So I went, and as I approached her office, I heard her singing. I stopped and listened. Then the tears came. The song she sang was an old Kush song the women, Kush or Himba, sang as they went into the desert to hold conversation with the seven. I'd heard my mother sing it for weeks whenever she returned. I'd heard my oldest sister sing it to herself as she polished astrolabe parts for the shop. I'd sung the song to myself whenever I snuck into the desert. I entered Dr. Nwanye's office with wet cheeks and she'd smiled, firmly shaken my hand, and closed the door behind me. That first day we talked for an hour about my family, Himba customs, and the rigid expectations placed especially on girls in both Himba and Kush families. She was so easy to talk to, and I learned more about the Kush that day than I had in my entire life. Let me get another drink. Hello, Mr. Baby. Look at this cutie pie. Look how big he is. Sitting on the yard. When I turn that fan off, I think he's cold. Look at that little baby. In some ways, Himba and Kush were like night and day, but in matters of girlhood and womanhood and control, we were the same. What a surprise this was to me. The first day, we didn't talk about what happened on the ship at all, and I was glad. Afterward, I walked into my dorm room feeling like I'd visited a place close to home. Eventually, we did go deep into my experiences on the ship, and doing so brought up such rawness. Over those months with Dr. Nwanye, I learned why sleep was so difficult, why my heart would beat hard for no reason, why I had such a tough time at solar shuttle platforms, and why I couldn't bear the thought of boarding a ship. But now, something had shifted in me. I was ready to go home. I needed to go home. Like, the chronology is just off here. We could just be getting this all at the start, and then we get the scene where she rushes to Aqua's defense. That would have worked better, but now we're just getting told this all when stuff should be happening. The day after the showdown between Aqua and his professor, I'd made an appointment with Haras, the university chief. When we met, I'd told it how urgent my need was, and Haras understood. Within a week, the university had given Aqua permission to travel and gained agreement from the Kush city of Kokur and my hometown of Asemba to allow Aqua to visit as an ambassador. Aqua would be the first Medusae to come to Kushland in peace. The swiftness of these arrangements astonished me, but I moved with it all. One does not question good fortune. Home was calling, as was the desert into which I would go with the other Himba girls and women on pilgrimage. Aqua and I were issued tickets to Earth not long after quarter's end. My therapist, Dr. Nwanye, hadn't wanted me to go so soon, but I insisted and insisted and insisted. Just make sure you breathe, she said as I left her office hours before the journey. Breathe. Is this another blank page? This is another entire fucking blank page. Because, Tor is a fucking scammer, and they're now called Reactor. Yeah, just, if in doubt, insert entire blank pages into your book. Who gives a fuck about readers? Who gives a fuck about not wasting paper? As long as it's an excuse to get more money for less work, do it! This is the non-chapter that's just called Launch. I followed Akwu through the enormous entrance to the Umza Uni West launch port. Immediately, my sharp eyes found the doorways to docked ships far beyond the drop-off zone, ticketing and check-in stations and terminals. That's a lot of ands. I opened my mouth to take in a deep lungful of air and instead coughed hard. Akwu had just decided to let out a large puff of its gas. When I finally stopped coughing and my eyes focused on the docked ships, my heart began to beat like a talking drum played by the strongest drummer. I rubbed some cheese with my index finger from my cheek and brought it to my nose and inhaled, exhaled, inhaled, exhaled its sweet aroma. My heart continued its hard beat, but at least it slowed some. Akwu was already at check-in, and I quickly got behind him. See, we keep going back and forth between it and he for Akwu, but we're not discussing that, even though we will mention, hey, this character's a trans woman. That character will probably never be seen again. Imagine if the main character were a trans woman, or trans man, or non-binary, or literally anything. But I guess we will just have to settle for a single trans woman character who will probably never show up again. The Umza West launch port was nothing like the Kokura launch port back home. The hugeness of it was breathtaking. Since coming to Umza Uni, I'd seen buildings of the size that I couldn't previously have imagined. The vastness of the desert easily surpassed these structures, but where the desert was a creation of the seven, these buildings were not. The great size of the Umza West launch port was secondary to the great diversity of its travelers. Back at Kokura, almost every traveler and employee was human, and I had been the only Himba in a sea of Kush. Here, everyone was everything, ... at least to my still fresh eyes. I was 17 years old and had been at Umza University for only one of those years now, having spent the previous all on earth among my self-isolating Himba tribe in the town of Osemba. I barely even knew the Kush city of Kokura, though it was only 30 miles away from my home. Feel like I want something sweet, but I don't know what. The launch port was like a cluster of bubbles, each section its own waiting space for those in transit. There were whole terminals that I could not enter because the gas they were filled with was not breathable to me. One terminal was encased in a thick glass, and the inside looked as if it were filled with a wild red hurricane, the people inside it flying about like insects. Let me get another drink. Any comments you would like to make? Well, the wall is hot. Weird.
Nothing I can think of, other than how far into this are you and how much is left of this novella? What's the plot?
I'm on page... No, plot has not happened yet. I'm on page 32. The part on, if my phone is rotated, where it would show me the amount of pages total is where my screen is broken, so I don't know. And I just gotta scroll. Just from standing in line and looking around, I saw people of many shapes, sizes, organisms, wavelengths, and tribes here. I saw no humans like me, though, and if I had seen a fellow Himba, it was doubtful that I'd see any with medusae tentacles instead of hair. You know, almost like that could be on the book cover. Being in this place of diversity and movement was overwhelming, but I felt at home too, ... as long as I didn't look at the ships. Binti and Akwu, the ticketing agent enthusiastically said in Medusae through a I'm baffled by why so many fucking people speak Medusae when the first book kind of framed them as, like, isolationist. Why does everybody speak this language? Binti and Akwu, the ticketing agent enthusiastically said in Medusae through a small box on her large dome. She was a creature somewhat like Akwu, jellyfish-like and the size of a storage shed, except her dome was a deep shade of black and she had antennae at the center with a large yellow eye. Over the last year, I'd learned, well, brashly been told, that the females of this group of people had the long antennae with the yellow eyes. The males simply had a large green eye on their domes, no antennae. This one used her eye to stare at Aquu and me with excitement. Why are we saying brashly told? That's in parentheses. Well, comma, brashly been told. That's not really what brash means. That's okay. Yes, I responded in the language of my people. Oh, how exciting, she said, switching to a Chihimba, too. I will tell all my male mates today. I will tell all my male mates about today, and maybe even a few of my female ones, too. She paused for a moment, looking at her astrolabe sitting on the counter and then the screen embedded in the counter. I just say counter twice for no reason. Okay, cool. The aliens. The alien jellyfish are polyamorous. Are we going to get any other human queer characters? Is Binti going to be queer? That would be nice. I don't know why people were saying that there was disabilities things in Binti, because there's none, except for the magical healing, which hasn't come up yet in this book for some reason, even though it was like the whole point of the other one. The screen hummed softly, and complex patterns of light flashed on it and moved in tiny rotating circles. As I watched, my harmonizer mind automatically assigned numbers to each shape and equations to their motions. Unrelated to nothing. I think we should drop Binti into the Blit / the Dark Cloud universe and just see what she makes of that. That could be interesting. Might just kill her faster though, so maybe don't. The agent switched back to Medusa. Today you'll be... She paused, pluming out a large burst of gas. I frowned. You will both be traveling on the human-geared ship, the Third Fish. What? You tell it... Okay. Hold on. I'm getting a snack, and also we're just pausing, so we can all absorb that information. Are you kidding me? Never mind, I don't have a snack. I just have to reheat my food. Hello, Mr. Baby, you're so cute. Never mind, I'm not getting a snack because it would just be me reheating my dinner from yesterday, and I can't do that and read at the same time. So, not only does nobody give a fuck about the massacred children enough to have, like, a memorial service, they didn't even retire the ship and turn it into a memorial. We're just... What the fuck is this shit? What the fuck? And it's not even like they need to build spaceships, because their spaceships are fucking genetically modified giant animals. You will both be traveling on the human-geared ship, the Third Fish. Do you... ... Let me rotate my phone the other way. It's very annoying to hold it this way. The talking drum in my chest began to beat its rhythm of distress again. That's the ship we came in on, Aquu said. Yes. She may have experienced tragedy that day, but she still loves to travel. What the fuck? Why is... Okay, the person reading this off is the one who paused. So clearly she's aware that Binti was traumatized on the ship, but now she's trying to act like it's good. I nodded. The Third Fish was a living thing. Why should she die or stop flying because of what happened? Still, of all ships for us... I mean... And because it's respectful to the people who were massacred aboard her, at least send her to a different fucking circuit. My god. Why should she die or stop flying because of what happened? Still, of all ships for us to travel on, why the same one inside which so much death had happened and we'd both nearly died? What do you mean, both nearly died? Aqua was in no danger at all. Is this all right? The agent asked. The university has given you 2 lifetime travel privileges. We can put you on any ship. But the time may... I do not mind, Aquu said. Like a fucking asshole. That line's not part of it, but like, what a fucking asshole move. Why would you say that? Of course you're fine with it. You're the one who did the massacring. And you don't even feel bad about it. Of course you have no problem. I nodded. Okay, me neither. The spirits and ghosts of the dead don't stay where they're freed. I felt my right eye twitch slightly. Great, the ticketing agent said. You've both been given premium rooms near the pilot quarters. I hesitated and then stepped forward. Is there any way I can have the room I had on my way here? Why would you want that? The agent's eye bent toward me and she plumed out a small cloud of gas. Why? I mean, are you sure? I nodded. It's quite small and near the servant quarters, the agent said, and the security doors are... I know, I said. I want that room. I think you need to call her therapist to the fucking station, guys. Do you hear this?
No. I've been reading it.
Okay. This is not good. I hope it will at least, like, be portrayed as a terrible fucking idea, because this is a terrible fucking idea. Also, what do you mean they haven't fixed the fucking door yet? It's a goddamn spaceship. Are you telling me the door hasn't been fixed even though that's what's protecting you in case of a fucking vacuum breach? The agent nodded, looked at her astrolabe and then the screen. I can get you the room, but I hope you are okay with it being in a slightly different place. I frowned. I don't understand. The third fish is pregnant and will probably give birth when she arrives on Earth. The newborn will be a great asset to the Earth Miri 12 fleet, of course. What's good for passengers is that her pregnancy means the third fish will travel faster, but it also means her inner rooms and chambers will shift around some and will be a little more cramped. Why will she travel faster? I asked out of pure curiosity. We don't need to be told it's pure curiosity.
I asked curiously.
Uh-huh.
Just Moira.
Yeah. The sooner she'll get to Earth to bear her child, the agent said with a grin. Isn't it fascinating? I nodded, also smiling. It really was. And then the scene break, and it's like, okay, all right. And no, they're not Moya. They look like big shrimp. That was weird, but okay. And
it's fascinating. Why would they go faster?
Why the fuck?
To get to the destination faster. Fascinating.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Also, like, are you telling me her therapist had no say in, like, no, you can't put her back on the same ship she watched everybody die in front of her on. Get a different goddamn ship. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, this is apparently a famous thing. She's a hero. And we're just saying, oh yeah, nobody thought this through. Why would they do that? Please don't destroy my cardboard! Kiss! Thank you, pretty kitty. Don't you start it too? No! Okay, my cardboard has been rescued. Hello, Mr. Lupin, your face is so cute! After the line break, we're honored to have you both aboard, the boarding security guard said to me and Kush a half-hour later after our long walk to the gate. He was human and looked about the age of my father. He had a long beard and white Kush-style robes. My fast-beating heart flipped just seeing him. Few on Umza Uni dressed like this, and, suddenly, home felt closer than ever. Let me get another drink. For the record, I have no idea what I set the recording limit on my computer to, or if I set a limit, so it might just stop suddenly when we get to like an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours or something, but I have no idea. But that might just happen. And I probably won't be able to figure out how to combine the videos with my computer. Thank you, sir, I said, handing him my astrolabe to scan. Let me turn up my brightness. The fucking thing keeps changing by itself. On Umza Uni, all humans and many non-humans used astrolabes, and they were scanned so regularly that doing so no longer bothered me, as it had my very first time when I had left home. I glanced back at Akwu and whispered, "Say thank you or something," but Akwu said nothing. It clearly didn't appreciate the guard not bothering to look at or speak directly to it in its language. Medusae are too proud to use astrolabes, so this part of security does not apply to it, the guard said, clearly picking up on Akwu's irritation. He handed back my astrolabe. Again, I'm just begging for have a conversation about Aqua's pronouns. Does it use he, him, or it, its, or both? Does it actually give a fuck either way? Why is everybody just doing this? As I took it, I looked past him at the entrance to the third fish. The hallway leading inside was the same warm blue it had been that fateful day over a year ago. Sure, I said with a wave of my hand. It's fine. Was it blue when I exited, I wondered, as I put my astrolabe into my pocket next to my Edan. I couldn't remember. I hadn't been paying attention. I'd had other things to worry about, like trying to prevent a battle. Something red caught my eye on the security guard's uniform. A breath caught in my chest as I focused on the small red beetle. It walked right over where the man's heart would be. Red point on white. Red point on white. I frowned, knowing what was coming but unable to stop it. The flashback that hit me was so strong I twitched.
A frown.
Yes.
Just a frown.
Heru's narrow chest. His caftan was white. A red dot appeared on it like a cursor on a blank screen. On the left side, where his heart lived. It had been beating, calm, happy. Then it was a muscle, torn through. The Medusae stinger was white and blood stained it easily. That red dot bloomed like a rose on the bushes that liked to grow in the desert. Heru's blood, some spattered on my face, as his heart tore, as my mind broke. 5555555555555. Binti of Namib? The guard asked. I'd spoken with Heru's parents twice. The first time his mother only gazed at me through the virtual screen and cried. Openly, unflinchingly, she'd stared at me as if she could reach out and touch her son through my eyes. The second time, Heru's brother, only a year younger than Heru, called and demanded I recount every detail of the last moment. He didn't care that it made me weep, or that it would lead to a full week of nightmare-packed nights. Bad writing, for me. And neither did I. Heru's brother looked so much like him, same granite black hair and bushy eyebrows. After those two calls, I had heard nothing from Heru's people. Binti of Namib? The guard asked again. Oh, I said, looking up. I shook myself a bit. Sorry. Again. This is just not fucking credible. She has an entire therapist assigned to her by the university, and yet the exact same university's purposefully sending her back on the ship that she got traumatized in, even though they're the ones who are assigning her a therapist. Do you know how much therapists cost? It's a lot of fucking money. This is ridiculous. You may board the ship. Thank you, I said. I turned to Aquu, and I had to stare at it for several seconds, as I prevented myself from falling into another nasty flashback, this one involving Aquu and how it had initially tried to kill me. Then I said to it in Meduse, You first, my friend. Another scene break. Crossing the threshold and stepping onto the ship was easy enough. I felt the talking drum in my chest, but that was all. Aqua floated off to its room on the other side of the ship, and I was glad to be alone. I needed to be alone. I needed to experience this alone. I passed a few people in the hallway to the sleeping rooms. It felt strange to be among so many humans again. Too quiet. I clutched my silky shawl closer to my body, feeling people's eyes on my Akuoko. I keep forgetting that she even has fucking tentacles on her hair, because it doesn't actually do anything, and again, it's literally not on the book cover.
Read out a description of them. It's just them moving of their own accord, and she's not getting any sense from them.
Yeah.
It's just something
Like,
separate.
she didn't even notice that these things had appeared on her until she rubbed some of the ochis off in the first book and was like, hey, why is that blue? Like, phone, stop it. Feeling people's eyes on my Akuoko and my ochis covered skin, especially my arms, neck, and face. Even among the many races at Umza Uni, it had been a long time since I'd felt so alien. Also, again, you cannot fucking convince me that out of all of the multiple species alone, not to mention all of the cultures of those species, that she is the only one from a culture that covers themselves in ochre or something like it. Again, species is not a monoculture. Why? This is Like, are you telling me she hasn't made friends with at least one other goddamn species of alien at the bare minimum who does something similar? What is the point of there being aliens if we're not gonna use them? I started my breathing techniques the moment I saw my room's door. If I began treeing, I'd never experience the full effect of my terror and thus wouldn't be able to address it properly. This was one of Dr. Noigny's requests, not in this moment. She hadn't wanted me to take this trip, but in the idea. When you face your deepest fears, when you are ready, she'd said, don't turn away. Stand tall, endure, face them. If you get through it, they will never harm you again. Unfortunately, that's the moral that Nadia Corafor has to say about physical disability as well, and says that you shouldn't take pain medication or it makes you weak, and therefore it's your own fault you're disabled. So don't fucking take that goddamn advice. I took deep lung-filling breaths as I approached the door. Still, a violent shudder ran through my body and I leaned against the golden wall. Oh, do we think in this story she will stop being ashamed of having, and I quote, dark-skinned desert people in her ancestry? Do we think we'll get to meet those people and that she will stop being colorist and anti-black towards other black people? Do we think that? I don't think that. I took deep, lung-filling breaths as I approached the door. Still, a violent shudder ran through my body and I leaned against the golden wall for support. Everything is fine, I whispered in Ochihimba. I switched to Medusa. Everything is fine. But everything wasn't fine. I was walking towards the door, my back stiff, my mind full of equations. I would really like nothing more than for her to just stop walking and just not go in there. It's completely fucking unnecessary. I was I was carrying a heavy tray with food from the dining hall, and everyone on the ship was dead. Chests torn open by Medusa's stingers. The Medusa had enacted Muj Ha Ki Bira, the Great Wave. Also, as I may have mentioned, maybe not, but the first book is so badly written, I still don't even know where the Medusa's stingers are supposed to be. We are told they look like giant jellyfish, and getting that much of a description took for fucking ever. And presumably this stinger, a singular stinger, looks like a fucking tooth or something, is maybe in one of their tentacle things. But we don't know that for sure. For all I fucking know, it could be in the center like a octopus beak. We don't know because they're never properly fucking described. Leaning against the wall, I pushed myself within feet of my room's door. A woman with a staring small child walked by, greeting me, and entered her room doors away. The hallway grew quiet as the woman's door locked behind her. The shh of the door sealing itself seemed to echo all around me. I began to see stars through my watering eyes. Yeah, maybe your therapist should have been brought along. Maybe the university shouldn't have purposefully stuck you on this ship, because, like, this has to be on purpose. They're the ones approving all of this. They're doing all this. They're paying for it all. This is on purpose. Heru. He was lovely. I liked him. Then his eyes changed because a Medusa ripped through his heart. All my friends who should have been in my class, dead. I am the only human on Umza of my year because all others are dead. All dead, all dead. I smelled their blood now, heard the ripping. No screams because that required untorn lungs. Gasps. Spilling. I'd come here. My choice. Yeah, you can leave at any time. Insert the skeleton meme. Hit the bricks. Just get out. If it sucks, whatever it just is it.
If it sucks, hit the bricks.
Yeah, if it sucks, hit the bricks. You can just leave. This is completely fucking unnecessary and so goddamn contrived.
It's still not a plot.
Yeah, this is not a plot. I held my cheese-covered hands to my nose and tried to inhale the sweet scent. Flowers, clay, tree oils. But I couldn't breathe. I guess I should mention this in the video, but, like, I don't trust this author anymore. I mean, I only started reading her books, like, the day before yesterday at this point, but all my trust has evaporated. She just doesn't do basic fucking research. Or editing, but more importantly, research. or editing in that research after writing the first draft. So, like, oh cheese. In the first book here, she went out of her way to emphasize over and over and over again that it smells really good. It smells like flowers. It's made of nothing but flower oil, oil from flowers, and the red ochre. But in real life, it's made with red ochre and usually butter fat, milk fat from usually goats. But and sometimes they add perfumes to it, but in this we're just told, as though this is how it's always been made and always will be, that it's made from ochre and oil from flowers. There's no mention of the milk fat or anything or any kind of fat at all. And we get it emphasized to us that it smells like flowers. So that's what makes it not gross, because it smells like flowers. So, and we're not given any explanation from within the story for, like, I don't know, let's reference Planet of the Apes here. Some kind of mysterious disease that wiped out all the fucking cows and goats. So they can't use milk fat because they can't get milk because there's no more cows or goats. You know, Planet of the Apes style thing. Nothing like that. Nothing like, I don't know, something happened where they have to start looking for other ingredients and just like, nope, we're just telling people how it's not actually made. And this is most people's first idea that the Himba people exist as an ethnic group at all. Like, this was not, I knew about them before this. I've seen documentaries and stuff, but like, most people probably don't. Especially most white people. This is going to be their first and only idea that the Himba people exist, and where if we're just spreading misinformation about them, and like, if you've read the first book, maybe you can go read it. It's only like 100 pages or something, and most of that wasn't even necessary. But like, it just seems like cultural appropriation. It seems like purposefully sanitizing their actual cultural practices to make it seem cleaner and more marketable, and I don't fucking like it. I pressed my hands to my chest as if I could cut my own beating, untorn heart, as if I could calm it. For a moment everything went black. Then my sight cleared. I whimpered. Shallow breaths, increased heart rate, you're having a panic attack, a stiff female voice said in Kush. I am, I whispered. I didn't like for my astrolabe to speak, but Professor Opkala had me set it to speak whenever I had a panic attack. I'd protested back then, but now I understood why. Why are we getting told this on page... I have to scroll up. I have to scroll down, apparently. Why are we getting told this only on page 40? She's had panic attacks. Like, are you hearing the shit? This is what Nadia Corafor keeps doing in all of her books, and this is also what Martha Wells does. This is what a lot of bad modern authors keep doing. They'll just make shit up out of thin air, and then just won't edit the goddamn document to put it in at the start. So we're just getting told this on page 40, even though this definitely would have come up, should have been fucking brought up before now. Blah blah, I'd protested back then, but now I understood why. I suggest you drop into mathematical meditation. The voice was coming from my pocket, in which my astrolabe was warming and vibrating gently. If I do, I learn nothing, I gasped. Are we gonna talk about how that's like really fucking bad mental health advice?
You should.
I think her fucking therapist is sabotaging her on purpose. The university sure as hell is. I don't know if we're actually going to address that, though, because we keep not addressing things in Nadia Corafor's books. There is time to learn, Binti, the voice said. This won't be your... Okay. Is this fucking thing connecting to a call center and a real person is talking to her? Or are we saying this is... It's responding very specifically to her response now, so I am concerned. Is this a sentient fucking robot inside whatever the goddamn fuck an astrolabe is, which we've yet to be given an explanation for? Like, saying, hey, by the way, you're having a panic attack. I suggest you do calming activity. That's automated. This is not automated. If I do, then I learn nothing. There is time to learn, Binti, the voice said. This won't be your last panic attack. But there's no one in this hallway but me, and all I can do is notify the ship's medics. Help yourself, drop into meditation right now. Does she have a... Okay. We cannot talk about robots in science fiction without talking about slavery. Is her fucking astrolabe, or all these people's astrolabes, sentient fucking robots? Because if they are, then they are slaves unless they are being given free will, and they are not being given free will. We still don't even know what an astrolabe is. What's happening here? Everything went black again, and when things came back, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop seeing Medusae stingers tearing through bodies with surprised faces. Heru, Remy, Olu, I could not force myself to inhale and get air into my lungs. My chest was burning when I finally gave in. I slipped into the trees and dropped into meditation. Ah.
Why did the world go black and then we had that? Why was the... Are we saying she passed out? What was that?
Who the fuck knows? Is she closing her eyes? I don't know. And also, like, yes, please, astrolabe, please alert the fucking ship's medics and then sue the goddamn university for very clearly sabotaging this young woman's mental health. Because that's what they're doing. The numbers flew, split, doubled, spun like the voice of the seven. And soon they were, and also this whole seven thing, I'm pretty sure Nadia Korafor is just making that up. I don't think that's part of the Himba people's culture. And soon they were everywhere and everything. I grabbed at Euler's identity. E is greater than I times pi plus 1 equals 0, and I went from plummeting to gently floating down a warm rabbit hole with soft furry walls and landing on a bed of pillows and feathers. When I looked up from this fragrant, quiet place, the narrow telescopic view made things above clearer. I'm just confused about what's going on now. I was on the third fish, a peaceful giant who was like a shrimp and could breathe in outer space because of internal rooms full of oxygen-producing plants that served as lungs. The violent death of many had happened on this ship, of my teachers, my friends, but not for me. No, not for me. I'd lived, and I'd become family with the murderous Medusae. And then I don't know if this is... I think it's just an awkward way to end that page. I don't think there's an actual scene break here. I said from deep within my chest. Let me try that again. I don't know how you mean deep within your chest, but whatever, that's good enough. My heart beat slowly. We fixed that panic attack way too goddamn easily. My heart beat slowly. I reached into my pocket and brought out my Edan. Quietly, I whispered my favorite equation, and the blue current etched into the Edan's fractals of fine grooves and lines. I still did not know what it was, but after studying with Professor... Let me get a drink. I have the hiccups again. But after studying with Professor Opkala and studying the Edan itself, I knew how to make it speak and later sing. I went to my room's door, but... You're lying on a bed, aren't you? Suddenly, teleporting. Went to my room's door and let the door scan... Wow, you're going to the door and letting the door scan your eyes? How many times can we repeat words in a single sentence? It opened and I stepped into the room where I had learned to survive. But are you not already in the fucking room? Hold on, I'm scrolling back up. Okay, I guess we're being metaphorical. I thought we were being literal of she's on a bed. Okay, no, that was apparently just a fucking metaphor. That seemed very literal. Okay, weird. I stepped into the room where I had learned to survive, and then there's a scene break, and also that's not true. Because, you didn't learn jack shit. I can't stress enough to you how badly written the first one was. There's no tension, there's no stakes, there's no pacing. She didn't learn jack shit. She didn't learn to survive. She had all the food she could want for 3 days. My first sleeping cycle, and then in parentheses, for there isn't any night and day in space, let alone ones that are on Earth time. Hello, Mr. Lupin! Want a purr for everybody? He's doing the paw thing on my crochet. You want a purr? He's sniffing the thing. You're adorable. Was full of violent nightmares so sharp that I could barely tolerate being around Akwu the next day. I'd never told it about my panic attacks or nightmare, and I didn't tell it now, 'cause I guess we're pretending there's no blatant telepathic link between them. Such things did not move Akwu, and all it would say was that these would not kill me and I should strengthen myself and push past it all. Medusae don't understand the human condition. My emotional pain would only irritate Akwu when it couldn't make my pain instantly better. So, instead, I kept my distance from it that first day, saying I needed time to think. The ship had a separate gas-filled dining hall for Akwu, and it found the door there so... the food there so delicious that it spent most of the first day there. Being on the ship had no effect on Akwu. It felt right at home and easily reveled in the luxuries the ship and the university provided. Again, this is because Akwu was the one doing the massacring. For fun, not the victim. I didn't analyze this too closely. If I went down that desert hare's burrow, I'd find myself in a dark place where I asked questions like, who did Akwu kill during the Muj Ha Kibira? I understood that when Akwu had participated in the killing, it had been bound by the strong Medusae thread of duty, culture, and tradition, until my ochis showed it something outside of itself. If you say so? You mean it realizes your ochis is magically curing all disabilities, including amputations that they have, doing it for personal gain? But are we pretending there's like some pure-hearted motivation there for some reason? During those first months at Umza Uni, Akwu had answered my calls and walked for miles and miles with me through Math City during the deepest parts of night when I suffered from homesickness so powerful that all I could do was walk and let my body think I was walking home. It had talked me into contacting all my siblings, even when I was too angry and neglected to initiate contact. Akwu had even allowed my parents to curse and shout at it through my astrolabe until they'd let go of all their anger and fear and calmed down enough to finally ask it, how is our daughter? Akwu had been my enemy and now was my friend. For no reason. And we can't even say it's from the fucking genetic modification because she was helping them before that. Akwu had been my enemy and now was my friend, part of my family. Still, I requested that my meals be delivered to my room. By the second day, the flashbacks retreated, and I was able to spend time with Akwu talking in the space between our dining halls. I would really fucking like for Akwu to die, and for her to realize, hey, they genetically modified me without my fucking knowledge or consent and have been brainwashing me this whole time. Can we at least be given that explanation for her behavior in the first book? Because, like, we can even say that their fucking gas in close proximity enough time messes with your head, because we know it's fucking toxic. Anything at all. Any kind of explanation. It's good to be off-planet again, Akwu said. I gazed out of the large window into the blackness. This is only my second time, I said. I know, Akwu said. That's why being on Umza Uni was so natural for you. I enjoy the university with its professors and students, but for me it's left me feeling heavy. I turned to it, smiling. But you're so light already. You barely weigh... It's not about mass and gravity, it said, twitching its akuoko in amusement. It's the way you feel about needing to be near the desert. You don't live in it, but you played in it a lot and you like living near its vastness. It is always there. It is the same with me in space. I nodded, thinking, and again, the fact that we're just joking around with one of the people that massacred all her friends. And there's never been any consequences, and like, we could be talking about how we all need to play nice to not start another war, but we're not even doing that. It's not even like a political thing, it just seems like, yeah, totally fine. I know, and like even the people who are then being just hateful towards it for its species, they're like not even bringing up the whole massacre thing any at all. They just seem to be doing it just for the heck of it. I nodded, thinking of the desert near my home. I understand. Is that why you wanted to come with me so badly? It puffed out a plume of gas. I can travel home at any time, it said, but the timing seemed right. The chief likes the idea of irritating the Koosh with my visit. It shook its tentacles and vibrated its domes. Laughter. It has multiple domes? I thought it had a single dome. Or is that a typo? Who the fuck knows what they look like? You're coming to make trouble? Huh?
Certainly not the author.
Uh-huh. You're coming to make trouble? I asked, frowning. Medusae like war, especially when one isn't allowed to make war. A ripple of glee ran up the front of its dome. Now it's back to a singular dome. Does it have more than one or no? I grunted, turning away from it, and said in Ochihimba, there isn't going to be any war. 3 Earth days. When it came time to eat, though I tried, things didn't get any better. There's not a scene break there. We're just okay, whatever. We're just going to the next paragraph and suddenly doing other stuff. Okay. I took one step into the dining hall where the Medusae had performed Muj ha Kibira, looked around, turned, and went right back to my room, and again requested my meals to be sent there. Again, I can't stress the university is doing this shit to her on purpose. They arranged all of this. They absolutely picked this fucking ship. I spent much of my time meditating in the ship's largest breathing chamber. Most were not allowed to enter. Oh, it's because I didn't touch the phone enough. Most were not allowed to enter these spaces for more than a highly monitored few minutes, but my unique hero status got me whatever I wanted, including unlimited breathing room time. Aqua didn't join me here because its gas wasn't good for the plants, plus it didn't like the smell of the air. For me, the fragrant aroma of the many species of oxygen-producing plants and the moist air required to keep them alive was perfect for my peace of mind, and the ochis on my skin remained at its most velvety smooth here. The remaining days passed as time always does when you are alive, whether happy or tortured, and soon I was strapping myself in my black landing chair and watching the earth get closer and closer. When we entered the atmosphere, the sunlight touched my skin, and the sweet familiar sensation brought tears to my eyes. Then my akuoko relaxed on my shoulders as I felt the sunshine on them for the first time. You mean Earth sunshine? You've been outside on your other thing. And again, I'm just never going to get over the fact that she doesn't have tentacle hair in the book cover. Would have been so easy. Like at this point when I'm done recording this, before I upload it, I will fucking Photoshop some goddamn tentacle hair onto her and I will use that as the fucking thumbnail. Even being what they were, my Akuoko knew the feeling of home. After we landed and the ship settled at its gate, I sat back and looked out the window at the blue sky. I laughed. And then the entire rest of this page is blank.
I thought you were going to say that's the end of the book.
No. No.
How much is left?
We're like almost halfway. We're on page... That's why I said almost halfway. We're on page 46. Seems to be 46 out of 168. But I don't know what the number... The Internet Archive displays pages slightly differently. This non-chapter is titled At Home. Before we'd left, UMSA University Relations instructed Aqua and me to wait 2 hours for everyone to exit the ship before we did when we arrived on Earth. But why? I'd asked. So there is no trouble. Both of the reps we'd been meeting with had said simultaneously. It had been over 100 years since a Medusae had come to the Koosh lands, and never had one arrived in peace. The reps told us that the launch port would be cleared for exactly 1 hour, except for my family, representatives, officials, and media from the local Koosh city of Kokur and my hometown of Osemba. A special shuttle would drive Aqua, me, and my family to my village. I hope they are getting paid lots of money for this shit, at least. Hold on. The 2 hours we waited allowed me to shake off my landing weakness. I wore my finest red long stiff wrapper and silky orange top, my Edan and astrolabe nestled deep. Okay, also, I just want to mention, like, we could have done so many things to make Akwu actually, like, sympathetic and likable as a character. We could have just said that Akwu was forced along into the massacre and very particularly went out of the way not to fucking hurt anybody. We could have said so many things, but instead Aqua was like saying, "You are the foundation of all evil" to her and shit, and trying to stab her to death. And then all of a sudden, only because now it can get some of the ochis, which literally cures their fucking amputations even from years past, because magical curing. And now it's like, okay, maybe I won't kill you, but also I still really want to fucking kill you. And now we're pretending it's a cute little alien friend. Like, what the fuck? I wore my finest long red stiff wrapper and silky orange top. My Edan and astrolabe nestled deep in the front pocket of my top. We keep just repeating words like that. Did I text you the fucking sentence from Noor that's hilarious about the herbs?
Yes.
Read that out to me. So we can, because I can't open it on my phone without probably closing this. I just have to run to the bathroom quick, so. No. You can't. You can't on the computer. You guys are going to get some silence, and or it won't stretch that far.
Here's a line from Noor. A woman selling herbs and spices gave me a necklace of fragrant-smelling herbs. She put it over my head, her face coming close to mine. Welcome, Ayo. She smelled of curry and herbs. She smelled of curry, and the herbs she gave me smelled of mint and sage.
And that was published in 2021. What we're reading now is from 2017.
Yeah, that line I just read out to you is from 2021. The one it's currently reading out loud, aka the Binti 2 Electric Boogaloo, is from 2017, so it's gotten even worse. A woman selling herbs and spices gave me a necklace of fragrant smelling herbs. She put it over my head, her face coming close to mine. Welcome, Ao. She smelled of curry, and the herbs she gave me smelled of mint and sage. Just let that sink in a little bit. Imagine the 1,000,001 ways you could write that sentence to not be that bad. Such as, for instance, literally the effortless change of one of the street vendors had come up to me carrying a necklace. She put it over my head, her face coming close to mine. Welcome, Ao. She smelled of curry, mint, and sage, like the products she sold. Something like that. I'm dropping stuff on the little baby kitty. Instead, we get one of the, most repetitious paragraphs the world has ever seen. It's ridiculous.
Thank you, pretty kitty.
So, is the necklace made of mint and sage, and how? Is it just the plant stems?
I don't know. What are you doing that little face for, little baby?
Because I was knocking stuff down.
Okay. He's like squinting a little bit. He's got little airplane ears. Hey, Ronnie. You can sit here. Where did I stick my phone? Hi. Oh, don't stab a hole in the Cheerios. Hi, little baby. You might get squished by a big cat. Okay, continuing. It's my phone. Scoot your peas. By the way, you can just go to any grocery store and buy beans and some kinds of peas. I guess those are beans. They look like beans, and just throw them in your garden. That's how they grow. They're seeds. You're so cute. I'm getting distracted by the adorable little baby face. 2 hours. Do you remember what was the last thing I read? Nope. Okay, it's this part. Yep. 2 hours later, the 2 hours we waited allowed me to shake off my landing weakness. Okay, we were past this part. I'd also put all my metal anklets back on. I did a bit of my favorite traditional dance before my room's mirror to make sure I'd put them on well. The fresh cheese I'd rubbed on every part of my body felt like assuring hands. I'd even rolled 3 of Aqua's Stop texting.
You can hit the volume button and set the thingy to...
Good point. Yeah. Then I'll forget to turn it back on, so... whatever. You will all just suffer from text from our gardening group chat. I'd even rolled 3 of Aqua's Akuoko and with cheese. This would please my family, even if it annoyed the Koosh people. To Medusa, touching those hanging long tentacles was like touching a human's long hair. It wasn't at all that intimate, but Aqua wouldn't let just anyone touch them. But it let me. Covering them with so much cheese, Aqua told me, made it feel a little intoxicated. Uh-oh. Look at this little baby. He's so precious. Maybe we can point the microphone. You want to purr, Ronnie? It's Ronnie sniffing it if his nose is making noises. Here's Mr. Lupin's purr. Should be audible. He's a sleepy baby. Okay, continuing. Hopefully his adorable little purr is showing up. Everything is happy, it had said, sounding perplexed about this state. Good, I said, grinning. That way you won't be so grumpy when you meet everyone. Koosh like politeness, and the Himba expect a sunny disposition. I will wash this off soon, it said. It's not good to feel this pleased with life. We walked down the hallway, and when we rounded a curve, it opened into the ship's exit. Also, why isn't Aqua anywhere on the cover? Wait, whatever. At least put some fucking effort in. For a moment, I could see everyone out there before they saw me. 3 news drones hovered. Oh, we're now finding out that there's drones that the news use? On page... I keep forgetting if the page number's at the top or the bottom. It's at the bottom. On page 48, after the whole book one, now we find out the news uses drones. 3 news drones hovered feet away from the entrance. The carpeting before the exit was a sharp red. I blinked and touched my forehead, pushing, shoving the dark thoughts away. I spotted my family standing there in a group, then another group of Koosh and Himba welcoming officials. I hadn't told my family about my hair not being hair anymore, now that it was a serious... Huh? What do you mean you hadn't? It was video calls, wasn't it? I thought they were doing video calls. You very specifically mentioned looking directly into the eyes of Haru's brother. What do you mean your family doesn't know your hair is gone? Did you just Again, basic editing was not done. Your paws are so cute. This is ridiculous. I hadn't told my family about my hair not being hair anymore, now that it was a series of alien tentacles resulting from the Medusae genetics being introduced to mine. That they had sensation and did other things I was still coming to understand. Apparently. Off screen. Just now. Did other things I was still coming to understand. I could hide my Akuoko with a cheese, especially when I spoke with my family through my astrolabe when they couldn't see how my Akuoko sometimes moved on their own. Won't be able to hide them for long now, I thought. Okay, this is just completely and utterly ridiculous. If her family doesn't know, I'm going to flip a gasket. Everybody knows about her. She's been on the news. Everybody knows her. There's no fucking way her family doesn't know. She's just... Literally. She just thinks her family doesn't know. And if they don't actually know, then this writing is worse than I thought. Any moment I would exit and they would all see me. I slowed down and took a deep breath, let it out and took in another. I held a hand out behind me for Akwu to wait. Then I knelt down, swiped from cheese from my cheek and touched it to the ship's floor. My prayer to the seven was brief and wordless, but within it I asked them to bless the third fish too. This interstellar You can come sit here. This interstellar traveling beast holds part of my soul, I whispered. Please give her a safe delivery, and may her child be heavy, strong, as adventurous as her mother, and as lovely. I already forgot that the ship was pregnant, because that doesn't actually matter at all. We could have just gotten a single sentence during the trip about the pregnancy had pushed blah blah blah. That literally only got brought up before the thing, and now I completely forgot. I wished the third fish could understand me, and thus understand my thanks, and I felt one of my Akuoko twitch. As if in response, the entire ship rumbled. I gasped, grinning, delighted. I pressed my palm more firmly to the floor. Then I stood and walked to the exit. Okay, like imagine if she'd actually bonded with the ship while on the journey. Imagine that. That's not the story we're getting. For some reason. I stepped out of the ship before Akwu, so the sound of my mother's scream reached my ears immediately. Binti! There was a mad rush, and I was suddenly in a crush of bodies, half of them covered in ochis. Only the women and girls of the Himba use the ochis, so that's a statement to state as fact. We still don't know what year this story is taking place in, but like, traditionally all of them wear it. It's just that the men started not using it as much starting in the 1960s because they were being conscripted into a military. Like I think it was the British military or something. Now we're just saying only women do it as fact. All right. Also, this has so many fucking parentheses in it. She definitely read Martha Wells shit, or maybe there's some secret fucking thing out there that had a bunch of parentheses that has spawned all this farther bullshit. Mother, father, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins. My daughter is well. Binti, we missed you. Look at you. The seven is here. When everyone let go, I started sobbing as I clung to my mother, holding my father's hand as he followed close behind. I caught my brother Bina's eyes as he flicked one of my Ochi's heavy locks with his hand. Thankfully, this didn't hurt much. Your hair has grown, he said. I grinned at him, but said nothing. My sisters started swinging their long, thick Ochi's palm-rolled locks side to side and singing a welcoming song, my brothers clapping a beat. You cannot be telling me these people don't know that her hair has been replaced by tentacles. I refuse to accept that. And then it all stopped. I stopped in mid-sob. My parents stopped joyously laughing. Bina was looking behind me with wide eyes, his mouth agape as he pointed. I slowly turned around. For a moment I was two people, a Himba girl who knew her history very well, and a Himba girl who'd left Earth and become part Medusae in space. The dissonance left me breathless. Akwu filled the exit with its girth. Its three ochis-covered Akuodo were waving about, as if in zero gravity, one of them whipping before its dome violently, as if signing some sort of insult. Well, alright, that's a statement. Its light blue, semi-transparent, thin-fleshed dome was protected by the clear metal armor it had created on Uzma Uni. From the bottom of its dome protruded its large, white, tooth-like stinger. So are we finding out on page 50-1 that their goddamn stinger is in fact like an octopus beak and it's in the center of their underside? Are we finding that out now? Why couldn't we just have gotten this simple goddamn statement in the first story? From the bottom front of its dome protruded its large, white, tooth-like stinger.
It sounds like it's just a hard thing.
It's very... It's pretty much not. It's bad. Bad writing. Bad writing. Again, I think I said this already, but maybe I didn't. Your job as the author is to fucking give us the information required to understand the story. That includes what the goddamn alien species that are not based on anything existing look like. This isn't fan fiction. You're supposed to tell us what they fucking look like. Behind me, I heard clattering and the sound of booted footsteps rushing into the room. When I turned, one of the Kush soldiers had already brought forth his gun and fired it. Bam! Screams, running, someone or maybe some two were grabbing and pulling at me. This is ridiculous. I dug in my heels, yanked at my arms. A small burst of fire bloomed at in the carpet at Aqua's tentacles, inches from Aqua, feet from the third fish. "What are you doing?" I shouted. Oh no, I thought, a moan in my gut. I felt Aqua's rage flare, a burning in my scalp, a fire igniting in me as well. So we are admitting to the fucking mind control telepathic link shit. The anger. Not in front of my family. Unclean, unclean, I thought. I was unclean. Aqua made no sound and none of this came up in the first story at all. Aqua made no sound or move, but I knew in moments every soldier, maybe every one in this room would be dead, except possibly me. The Medusae do not kill family, but did that include family through battle? Why it can't actually kill everybody that fast. The reason they were able to massacre the ship is because they had the element of surprise and a shit ton of them to kill all the shit ton of you. I pulled from my mother's grasp, hearing the sleeve of my top rip. Am I supposed to believe that? No, they all know that Aqua was coming here. What is even happening? This is just badly written. Because if this is a surprise attack that nobody here was in on, then people should be shouting, XYZ insert faction is attacking something. But nope. Where do we go? I pulled from my mother's grasp, hearing the sleeve of my top rip. I pushed my father aside, grabbed my wrapper, and lifted it above my knees. Then I ran. Does that sound familiar? I don't fucking know. I don't know.
It sounds like a candy wrapper.
Yeah. Past my family, dodging news drones who turned to watch me. I don't think that's what why are news drones at person height when there's a shooting going on instead of going up near the ceiling?
Why would they be watching one particular person?
Yeah.
Maybe one of them could be keeping an eye on there, but the other
Yeah.
one's looking the other way to record multiple angles.
I flung myself in the space between Aqua and the line of soldiers that had flooded in from a doorway on the left. I let go of my wrapper and thrust my hands out, one palm facing the soldiers and the other facing Aqua. "Stop!" I screamed. I shut my eyes. Aqua was going to strike. Would it notice that it was I? Was I Medusae enough to avoid its stinger? Oh, my family. The Kush soldiers were already shooting. The fire bullets would tear... The fire bullets? Fire bullets?
That's worse than a regular bullet.
That's new fucking information, and we're only getting it on page 51 of the second story. Fire bullets? The Kush soldiers were already shooting. The fire bullets would tear and burn me from the inside out. Still, I stood up straight, my mind clear and crisp. I'd forgotten to drop into meditation. What? Is meditation supposed to be clouding your mind? Meditation is supposed to clear your mind. Now we're saying that her mind, because she forgot to meditate, is clear and crisp. That's just basic contradictory bullcrap. Silence. Eyes closed, I heard not even a footstep or rustle of someone's garments or Aqua's whipping tentacles. Then I did hear something and felt it too. Oh, not here, I thought, my heart sinking as it drummed too fast and too hard. It had happened once before on Umza Uni. I was in the forest digging up clay to make my ochis when a large pig-like beast came running at me. It was too late to make a dash for it, so I froze and looked it in the eyes. The beast stopped, sniffed me with its wet snout, rubbed its rough furry rump against my arm, lost interest, and walked off. As I watched it disappear into a bush, I noticed my long akuoko were writhing on my head like snakes, very much like Akua's were now as it stood in the exit, stinger ready. I could hear my Akuoko now, softly vibrating and warming. If I created a current while in this state, there would be sparks popping from the tips of each Ochi's-covered tentacle. Also, like, again, we still don't know what the fuck currents are because there's no world building. Because I guess a whole entire generation of authors, except they're not even from the same generation, multiple authors have just been convinced by fucking shitty publishers that not doing world building is actually really clever. No, it's not. It's lazy and means you are fucking refusing to do your job. Oh my gods, is she part Medusae now? I heard someone ask. Maybe she's its wife, I heard one of the journalists whisper back. The Himba are a filthy people, the person said. There's two people talking, though. That's why they shouldn't be allowed to leave Earth. Then there was snickering. So we're pretending that this isn't common knowledge, despite it being common knowledge? This is absurdity. I met my father's eyes, and all I saw was intense, raw terror. His eyes quickly moved to Akwu, and I knew he was looking at its stinger. I saw the faces of my family, and all the other Himba and Kush were here to welcome me, and I saw the history lessons kick in as they lay their eyes on the first Medusae they had ever seen in real life. I'm getting a drink. Why are we acting like you all knew he/it was coming along? Why are we acting like this is a complete surprise? This is bullshit. And still nobody is reacting like this is a fucking sneak attack from somebody else. The airport knew they were both coming. That's why you have special fucking transports and all this shit. This is shit writing. Akwu is... I turned from the soldiers to Akwu and back, trying to speak to them all at the same time. All of you, don't move. If you move... Akwu, calm down. Akwu, you fight now. You kill everyone in here. These are my family, my people, as you are. We'll remain alive, and there will be a chance for all of us to grow as people. Sweat beaded through the Ochis on my face and tumbled down my cheeks. More silence. Then a soft, slippery sound. Akwu sheathing its stinger. Thank the seven. I have respected your wishes, Binti, Akwu said coolly in Medusae. We still haven't gotten an explanation for why the fuck it came out fighting and threatening people, besides it wants to for fun. I turned to the Kush and spoke quickly. This is Akwu, Medusae ambassador and student of Umza University. The pact! Remember the pact! Have you forgotten? It's law. Please, he is here in peace, unless treated otherwise. Please, we're a people of honor, too. Again, with the switching back and forth between pronouns without any conversation, even though we have a trans woman who we'll probably never see again. As I stared forcefully at the Kush soldiers, I couldn't help but feel hyper-aware of the Ochis on my face and the fact that they probably all saw me as a near savage. Also, I want to bring up again the fact that in the first book, during the really shitty speech at the end, that we mostly didn't even get to see, Binti, invokes the concept of slavery and says that people on Earth view her people as almost slaves. A thing that is not fucking true in any way. And also, at the start of that story, which this isn't, apologizing for in any way, Binti's, actively mentally mocking an actual slave of the government for not being given an education past the age of 10, meanwhile she gets paid to go off to a university because she's super educated. Mr. Lupin is just sleeping on his back now, leaning against my arm. I don't know how he's not falling. But yeah, she invoked the concept of slavery to get sympathy points for her people who are not treated as slaves after mocking a slave and being classist towards a slave who literally wasn't allowed to have any education after the age of 10 because he's enslaved by the fucking government. And we're not that's a bit of world building we've never come back to again. And yeah, what the fuck. Anyways, my mother began to clap furiously, and soon everyone else did too, including some of the... Okay, we're literally doing that, and then everybody clapped? What did she say? We come in peace. And then everybody clapped. Literally. Page 54. Okay. My mother began to clap furiously, and soon everyone else did too, including some of the soldiers. Welcome to Earth, a tall Kush man in immaculate white robes said, sweeping in, grabbing my hand, and pumping it. He spoke with the gusto of a politician who's just had the wits scared from him. I am Truck Omaz, Kokur's new mayor. Are we just going to ignore the fact that people started opening fire on them for literally no reason?
Yep.
What's happening? It's a great honor to have you arriving at our launch pad on your way home. You're an inspiration to all of us here on Earth, but especially in this part of the world. Thank you, Alhaji, Alhaji, I said politely, straining to control my quivering voice. These Medusae, I heard my father tell my mother. Look at how the Kush are afraid of just one. If I didn't feel I was going to die of terror, I'd be laughing. Shush, my mother said, elbowing him. Come, let us smile to everyone. His grin, again, the lack of correct usage of pronouns that Martha Wells also does. We go from the characters, mom and dad talking, and now we're just saying him and his. Obviously meant to be referring to this politician guy that just walked up, but that's not how pronouns work. Again, if you say he must refer, the pronoun, whatever pronoun you're using, must refer to the last person mentioned by name or like nickname or something. But we're not doing that here because who gives a fuck about basic quality of writing? Come, let us smile to everyone. His grin was false and his grasp was tight as he laughingly whirled me toward the new drones without giving Akwu a single glance.
The new drones or the news drones?
News drones. Okay, I was just reading that wrong. The mayor smelled of perfumed oil, and I was reluctant to get too close to him with his white robes. However, he didn't seem to mind the Ochi's stains, or maybe he was so shaken that he didn't care at the moment. He pulled me close as the drones moved in, and his grin broadened. I felt him shudder as Aqua moved in behind us to get into the shots, and despite the fact that we'd nearly been on the verge of death by fire, bullet, or stinger or both, I somehow grinned convincingly at the camera drones. And then we have a scene break. Any more comments?
Nope.
This kitty. Did you get a picture of him just laying like this?
Yep.
So freaking cute. We had about 45 minutes and both Himba and Kush journalists sat us down right there in a vacated airport restaurant for interviews. I don't know why I said that weirdly. From the questions, I gathered what the community most wanted to know. And again, are we still pretending nobody knows about her tentacle hair?
Okay,
Even though...
commentary.
Okay.
How do they have very different styles of dressing? How are we making a distinction between the Kush and the Himba people? So casually.
Presumably their clothes, and the fact that the women are wearing the Ochis.
This just feels like the whole Muggle thing again, specifically referring to them. We were sat down by a Himba and a Kush, not a man and a woman named blah. They're specifically just referred to as the group they're part of.
Mm-hmm. I gathered what the community most wanted to know. We are proud of you. Will you stay? You have befriended the enemy. Will you meet with our elders and share your wisdom? What was your favorite food on Umza Uni? Oh, did you get scared awake? Nope. He just shook his head a little bit. I'm using my arm as a pillow now. What are you studying? What kind of fashion are you most interested in now? Why did you come back? Why they let you come back? Why? Why did you abandon your family? What are those things on your head? Are you still Himba? You still blessed with Ochis? Why? Mathematics, astrolabes, and a mysterious object. You're truly amazing. Will you be staying now that you've seen Umza Uni, a place so much greater than your meager Himba home? What was Umza University like for a tribal girl like you? What is that on your head? What has happened to you? No man wants a girl who runs away. Are you happy with your spinsterhood? This cat is so flippin' cute. So cute. Also, I'm mad for multiple reasons, but I shall continue. I smiled politely and answered all their questions. Then I moved on to stiff, awkward conversations with Kush and Himba elected officials. Nothing was asked of Akwu, and Akwu was pleased, preferring to menacingly loom in the background behind me. Akwu was happiest around human beings when it was menacingly looming. That's not. Is that supposed to be funny? Because that's literally not funny. It was literally part of a massacre, including murdering children. And then threatened to murder her, and would have murdered her if not for her being the only way they could get out alive. This isn't funny. We're talking about a literal fucking mass murderer here. Of children. No less. Including her friends. Including would have been her. Listen to this sentence. Nothing was asked of Akwu, and Akwu was pleased, preferring to menacingly loom in the background behind me. Akwu was happiest around human beings when it was menacingly looming. And I think that's supposed to be funny, but it's literally not funny. That's like saying Donald Trump is happiest. I just scrolled so far. Oh no! Oh, we were on page like 46 or something. Okay, it kept it. The little baby is slowly sliding around and made me drop the phone. Slowly sliding. Are you awake? Do you want me to put the other ball of yarn there for you? Here. Use this as a pillow, little baby. There you go. You are so silly. You want to lean on this?
Kitty body pillow.
There you go. He just looks annoyed. You're silly. Stick that back over there, otherwise I feel like it's just gonna fall and smack him. Where were we at? Yeah. Aqua was happiest around human beings when it was menacingly looming. And I think that's supposed to be funny, but it's like saying known serial killer really enjoys looming menacingly, and it's like that's a sign of being a bad fucking person. Or to quote Aqua back at it, "You are the foundation of all evil." I was expecting that to be a mistranslation or something in the first story, but apparently not. I was exhausted. My temples were throbbing, my mind wanting a moment to focus on what had nearly happened with Akwu right outside the third fish and not getting a chance to do so. That's not a good excuse for you skipping over that, author. Just because you lampshade that you're too goddamn lazy to deal with any of that or even explain what that was properly doesn't mean it's not a problem. On top of all of this, let me see if I can point the microphone to this purry baby. Of course, he stops purring so loudly as soon as I pointed at him. On top of all of this, I still needed days to recover from the stress of traveling through space for the equivalent of 3 days, and then the physical shift of being on Earth. Finally, when it was all done, we were escorted to the... Are you sitting up now properly? You gonna sit with me? You want to purr for the microphone? Like that? I'm just gonna walk away. Okay. Thank you, Ronnie. Finally, when it was all done, we were escorted to the special shuttle arranged for Akwu and me. My family was offered a separate shuttle. I was glad for the solitude. As soon as I was inside, I slumped in my seat and tried not to look at Akwu clumsily squeezing and then bumbling into the shuttle that was clearly not made for its kind. "Your land is dry," Akwu said, turning to the large, bulbous window at the back as we bulleted through the desert lands between Kokur and Osemba. "Its life is not water-based." "There used to be more water here," I said, my eyes closed. "Then the climate changed, and it went underground or dried up, and the rains fell elsewhere." "I cannot understand why my people warred with the Kush," it said, and we were quiet for a while. I too had often wondered why the Medusae fought with the Kush, and not some other tribe inhabiting the wetter parts of the world. "But the Kush have many lakes," I said. "It's us Himba who live closest to the deep desert, the hinterland, and even in my village we have a lake. It's pink in the sunlight because of all the salt in it. When I see this god body, my people will know." I'd once asked Aqua about its planet Omariro, and it had said little. It told me there was no water on Omariro, but everything was soft, fleshy, and connected. You can't breathe there without a mask, but you would be adored, Aqua had said. The Medusae worshipped water as a god, for they believed they came from it. This was the root of the war between the Medusae and the Kush, though the details had long been blasted away by violence and death, and then angry, most likely incorrect, tales of heroism or cowardice depending on the teller. I briefly wondered what would happen if Aqua swam in the lake, since it had never been in a body of water, but I didn't ask. And then we have another non-chapter. And again, this is what really annoys me about these kind of scammy things. Let me get a drink first. But like, they won't even be consistent with their scammery. So we're not getting an entire page of blank paper between this. Like, so you're aware that it looks bad, but why are you doing it at all? Like, commit one way or the fucking other and just simply don't do it. It's a waste of paper and you're just trying to make it a scam. This non-chapter is titled The Root. My family's house has been called The Root for over 150 years. It's been in our family for longer than the existence of its name. One of the first homes built... What is that? Piece of...
Mango fiber.
Okay, say, I thought it was palm tree. One of the first homes built in the Himba village of Osemba, the root was made entirely of stone. Even the bioluminescent plants growing on the outside walls and the roof were generations old. The house was housed down, I say. The house was passed down through the women and my mother, being the oldest daughter in her family and the only one born with the gift of mathematical sight, had been the clear inheritor of it when her mother passed. A huge edifice built on an upward spiral shape stemming from the enormous meeting room on the bottom floor, the root also had a spacious kitchen, 7 bathrooms. A huge edifice built in an upward spiral shape stemming from an enormous meeting room on the bottom floor. The root also had a spacious kitchen, 7 bathrooms, and 9 bedrooms. As everything was in Himbaland, the root was solar-powered, its grids so well embedded into the sides and roof of the house that their bases had melted and blended with the stone. The root was old and more like a self-sustaining creature than a house. My father often joked that one day it would sprout a new bedroom next to mine. Let me get a drink. Obviously, my throat is getting tired of talking, so once we're done this non-chapter, I'll just end the video and then figure out how to connect them, maybe. Hello, Polychrome. You want to say hi? She's just nuzzling it. You want to speak? Say meow. Say meow. She said no. She doesn't do it on command. The meeting room was open to all extended family members and close friends whenever they needed it, be it day or night. In this way, home was never quite a quiet place or a private one. There were no locks on any of the doors, not even in the bathrooms, and mealtimes were always grand occasions. So in many ways, the evening of my homecoming was no different from any other. However, in other ways, it certainly was. Aqua's arrival in Osemba wasn't as spectacular, or terrifying, as its result, and that's in parentheses, the or terrifying. That's in parentheses, by the way. What is that?
Another fabric
Painting fabric. As its arrival at the launch port. A modest group of people were there to welcome us and gawk at Aqua, but most would come later in the evening. My family arrived in the shuttle behind us, and most of them quickly headed home to get ready for the dinner that night. Aqua, my father said in Himba, stepping up to us. He was shakily grinning as he looked up at it. Welcome. Also, why are we saying that her father's speaking Himba instead of calling it Ochihimba, the name of the actual language? Now we're just saying he's speaking in Himba. That's weird and inconsistent. He was shakily grinning as he looked up at it. Welcome to our village. Aqua just floated there, and my father glanced at me, his smile faltering. I motioned for him to keep talking. Okay, I am amazed by how you stood up to the Kush. They don't treat us Himba very well, either, but we are a quiet people, so we tolerate it and work with them. Come see what I've made for you. We followed my father around the house. I let my sandals dig into the warm red dirt as I walked. It was so good to be home. "Oh," my father peeped, turning to walk backward as Akwu and I followed. "I really enjoy the way you speak our language. Did my daughter teach you?" "Yes," Akwu said. "She is a good teacher." "She is a true master harmonizer," my father said, turning around. I bit my lip and said nothing. When we rounded the corner into the back, I was glad to have something to change the subject. "You can credit me for this," my father said, turning to us with his arms out. Akwu thrummed with pleasure from deep in its dome. "Oh, Papa," I said, laughing, that is amazing." Akwu moved past him to the large, transparent tent. It touched the flap, and a doorway sized just larger than Akwu's body opened, lavender gas billowing out. Akwu floated inside, the flap closing behind it. "I'm a master harmonizer, too," Papa said, looking at me and winking, "and a good researcher. Once I knew the components, it was easy to build a machine that creates their breathing gas. It's similar to the gas produced in some of the sprouts near the Kushland volcanoes." "This was all your idea?" I asked, grinning. "Of course," he said. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend, even if it's a monster." "Akwu isn't a monster, Papa." "It nearly killed you on that ship, and it nearly killed us all at the launch port." When I opened my mouth to protest he held up a hand. "It's the job of the master harmonizer to make peace and friendship to harmonize. For you to befriend that thing, you've done well." I gave him a tight hug. "Thank you." Akwu didn't come out, except to thank my father and say, "I am very comfortable in here. You are Binti's father." And then we have a scene break. This is just raising the question of, is Akwu just slowly suffocating in Earth's atmosphere? And why doesn't Akwu have a mask to put on? This is supposed to be a super sci-fi future. My bedroom was the same as when I'd left it. My table was messy with astrolabe parts, bits of wire, and sandstone dust. My closet was closed and my bed was made. There was a package on my bed wrapped in thin red cloth. I smiled. Only my mother would wrap a gift with such care, and always with red cloth. I turned it over, rubbing a hand across the smooth coolness of it, and set it back on my bed. "Hello." Polychrome's back again. Not even paying attention to me. "Hello? Can you say hi? You just gonna nuzzle everything?" She's just getting so in the way. "You're so cute." She's nuzzling the cord, so if you hear whatever noises that makes, that's her. "Excuse me." Unless you want to say hi, say meow. You want to do it? Nope. You want to purr? Purr. Thank you. She's nuzzling it. No, don't bite it. She just stuck it in her mouth. I went to my travel pod and brought out the dress I'd bought in Umza Uni on a rare occasion where I'd gone shopping. Long and flowing, its design was vaguely Kush, but mostly something else, and it was sky blue, a color Himba rarely wore. I put it on. When I came downstairs to join everyone in the meeting room, I immediately regretted wearing it. Stupid, 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 I thought, looking around. I've been away too long. Feeling the burn of everyone's stares, I made a beeline for my mother, who'd just gone into the kitchen. Two of my mother's older sisters stood over a huge pot full of boiling rice and another bubbling with bright yellow curried goat stew. My mother lifted the heavy lid of a pot full of red stew so she could dump in a large plate of roasted chicken wings. My stomach grumbled at the sight of it all. With all the delicious, exotic foods I'd eaten and prepared in my dorm kitchen on Umza Uni, nothing compared to a simple plate of spiced rice and spicy red stew with chicken. Hello, Polychrome. "Mama," I said, keeping my voice down so my aunties wouldn't hear, "when do this season's group of women leave for pilgrimage?" I couldn't calculate the time or access news of the leaves from off-planet. I chuckled nervously, looking at my mother, whose eyebrows rose. The pilgrimage time was calculated through numbers based on the current composition of local clay and written on 3 large palm leaves. These leaves were passed from home to home over a month until all Himba knew. "You want to go on your pilgrimage?" my mother asked. "Ow, Ronnie, your little claw just stabbed me in the elbow." "Your claws are long." I nodded. "I want to see everyone, of course, but this is why I came home, too. Again, I don't fucking understand why she didn't just communicate any of this shit to her parents." And, like, this is crazy.
Especially she's making all the effort to go home.
Yeah. Like, this is why she came here, and she didn't tell him this? Even though she could have gotten this information ahead of time? What if it starts literally an hour from now? My mother and I said it simultaneously. It's time. Then we both nodded. She reached out and carefully touched my akuoko. She took one in her hand and squeezed it. I winced. So they aren't hair anymore, she said. No. So yes, they do feel sensation, because squeezing them hurts. As does flicking them. Nope. Nope. I glanced at my aunties' turned backs. I knew they were listening, and as they stirred what was in the pots. It did this to you? They, I said, not Aquu, I don't think. I paused, remembering the moment when the stinger was plunged into my back as I knelt before the Medusae chief trying to save my life. Those Medusae and the lives of so many others on Umzo Uni. Really, I don't know if it was Aquu. I didn't see. They're a hive mind, she said, so it doesn't matter. She was rubbing the ochis off to reveal the true transparent blue of them with darker blue dots on the tips. And again, why is this not on the book cover? Why is this not on the book cover? What is the fucking point in making this a thing if it's not going on the book cover? I held my breath as she inspected me with a mother's eye and hand. She whispered softly and I held still. She's not saying anything, though. My mother only used her mathematical sight to protect the family. Now she used it to look into me. Deep. She'll see everything, I thought. Seconds passed, her hand grasping my akuoko, her eyes boring into me, her lips whispering simple but intuitively smooth equations that slipped away from my ears like oil from soap. I shifted from one foot to the other and prayed to the seven that she wouldn't start calling on them and them there is capitalized, to come exorcise her polluted daughter, like some distraught mother in the overly dramatic newsfeed shows my sisters enjoyed watching. I'm getting a drink again. Any comments while I'm getting a drink?
There's still no plot.
Yeah, nothing's happened. And we had a hint of maybe a plot, and now we're just not acknowledging, like, why were people shooting? Where you're just not doing that, I guess. Suddenly, my mother let go of my akuoko and looked at me with clear eyes, blinking. She lifted my chin. The women leave tomorrow. See? This is exactly why you should have called ahead of time. My eyes grew wide. Oh no, but I just got here. Yeah, this is your fault for not fucking asking ahead of time. Yes, for such a gifted harmonizer, your timing has always been awful. My pilgrimage dress. Is that what's in this package? I asked. She nodded. You knew. You're my daughter, my mother said. When she pulled me close to her and hugged me tightly, I rested my chin on her chest and sighed. Even if you're wearing these strange blue clothes that make you look like some sort of masquerade. I burst out laughing. Then we have a scene break. All 9 of my cousins came to my welcoming dinner, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews. Chief Kapika of the local Himba council came too, as did his second wife Nika. Only my best friend Dele remained missing. He hadn't been at the launch port either. I was disappointed, but I would track him down early in the morning, before I left for my 4-day pilgrimage. What kind of dress is that? My sister Vera asked as I stepped from the last stair into the crowded meeting room. You look like some kind of mermaid masquerade. Maybe you should go meet Mommy Wata at the lake. She laughed at her own words. I prickled. Vera was 11 years older than me, inches taller, and so beautiful that she had her pick of husbands from 15 amazing suitors 5 years ago. She'd chosen a man who was handsome like a water spirit and an extremely successful astrolabe seller, to my father's delight. Vera was also the most outspoken about my irresponsibly selfish choice to leave. She held her 2-year-old son on her hip, and he looked at me with wide eyes and a precious grin. Little Zoo seems to like my dress, I said. Zoo likes anything strange, she said, putting Zoo down. He stepped up to me and grasped. Also, in the very first book, she thought about mocking Aquu for having only a single name, which, while she has a bunch, which she thinks makes her culturally superior. And it's like, that's just the racism that white authors have been doing for centuries at this point, but we're just doing it unironically. He stepped up to me and grasped the bottom of my dress to look at it more closely. I'm kidding, Vera said. Honestly, I expected you to come back wearing a skin-tight spacesuit or something. This isn't so bad. And we're all relieved that you made it home safely. She gave me a tight hug. Thanks, I said. And that was how the night began, as expected. I had a chance to catch up with several of my age mates, all of whom were proudly betrothed, boys and girls. I was relieved, though slightly bothered, that none of them asked if I were here to enter a betrothal too. Chief Kapika gave a speech about Himba pride. And now our binti Ekiopara Zuzu Dambu Kapka of Asemba is back. We're changing the last name. We're changing the last word in there. I'm confused. Is back with us now. Now the community can contract back into itself like a self-protecting flower. We are all here, and that is good. When he'd finished talking, everyone applauded. I'd smiled uncomfortably. I was returning to UMSA Uni in 2 months for the beginning of next quarter, but I didn't have to tell everyone this yet. Eventually, we all sat down to eat, and that's when everything went wrong. Well, fucking finally!
How many pages are there?
66.
Out of how many?
168 according to the Internet Archive, but that includes a few pages at the end. I was enjoying a second helping of ostrich stew. My stomach stretched beyond its usual point. Back on UMSA Uni, Professor Akpala demanded that all her mathematics students control their daily intake of rich foods. To be full made treeing more difficult, she'd said. She was right. I'd never been one to eat more than what my body required, but I found my mind was sharper when I stayed just a little hungry with every meal. This is what the fuck is happening right now? This is like, yeah. Would you like to say that louder? Just
Incoherent swearing. Why are we encouraging eating disorders and for people to just not eat more than their body requires because it makes you smarter? Shut the fuck up.
literally, we're claiming that purposefully not eating enough food makes you smarter. Therefore, eating enough food that you're not hungry makes you dumber. This is literally just eating disorder bullshit that that her teacher's actively encouraging, but that's okay because she naturally did this her whole life. What the fuck? Your body requires food for thinking. Your brain thinking, especially if you're doing complex math problems, requires fucking food to burn. I mean, there's multiple theories for how humans developed big fucking brains, but food is a requirement. Don't fucking not purpose. Don't.
That during the SATs is when they actually had in snacks and they actually gave a shit about us being able to stand up and walk around and get water.
Yeah.
And have something to eat, and it's just like, cool. You won't do this the rest of the year, but you'll do it today.
Yeah, just to make them look good.
Telling.
Yeah, don't, again, this is shitty fucking advice you should never follow. If you're hungry, you're supposed to eat. That's your body telling you, we need food, we need energy. This is just fucking bullshit. This is literally the shit that encourages eating disorders. Please do not fucking follow this advice. You're supposed to eat until you're not hungry. Because hunger is your body saying, literally, I need more energy. Give me the goddamn calories that I need to function. You need calories to think. This is absolute bullshit. Over the months, I grew used to this not quite full sensation. Okay. That's literal starvation is what you're describing. You're describing starvation. You're describing being malnourished. And I speak from fucking experience, because most of my life, I've never had enough food to actually eat. And you know what happens when you constantly don't get enough food to eat? You don't feel hungry because your body's just like, well, there's no point sending that signal. Let's not bother. Now we're being told as a good thing, as a positive show of self-control that this character is purposefully doing that to herself. This is not fucking healthy. This is so goddamn bad. So we can add Fat Mizia to the list of Nadia Corafor's bigotry and literally encouraging eating disorders right now. My God. Over the months, I grew used to this not quite full sensation. However, today I indulged. I felt slow and heavy. Yeah, yeah, she's going to now be starving tomorrow because you know what happens when you go a long time not getting enough food to eat and then you eat a proper meal for once? The next day you're going to be really fucking hungry because your body's like, oh my god, there's actual food available. You need to get that right fucking now. That's what happens. But that probably won't happen because I don't fucking think this author does any research. I felt slow and heavy, and at the moment, to my delight, I was alone, the better to focus on my food. My father stood a few. I don't understand that. You're literally in a crowded room. To better focus on my food. My father stood a few feet away with his two brothers, Uncle Gideon and Uncle Akpi, talking. One moment Uncle Gideon was laughing raucously at something, and then the next he was struggling to keep my father from toppling over. "Papa!" I shrieked, jumping up. It was as if my father's fall created a vacuum, for everyone in the room rushed toward him. That's just as sudden as it seems. One moment Uncle Gideon was laughing raucously at something, and then the next he was struggling to keep my father from toppling over. "Papa!" I shrieked, jumping up. Even though there's like no indication that anything's wrong yet. What if you just fucking tripped? Are you like, are they all at a table? I don't know what's going on. I don't fucking know. But like, that's an instantaneous reaction. Why is she reacting that quickly? Polychrome, you are just so cute. She's using my hand as a pillow. It was as if my father's fall created a vacuum, for everyone in the room rushed toward him. My brother Bina got to him before me, pushing me aside to do so. My mother came running. "Maugo!" she shouted. "Maugo, what's the matter?" Bina and my uncle held him up. "I'm fine," my father insisted, but he was out of breath. "I'm fine." Even as he spoke he winced, limply holding his hands together, and it was then that I noticed the joints of his fingers were extremely swollen, almost bulbous. When had my father developed arthritis? Oh, I thought we were going to say he's having a stroke or something. Now we're talking about arthritis. I frowned as my sister Vera stepped up beside me on one side, her son clasping her skirts, and my older sister Omhai on her other. I am not short. I'm trying to remember what you're supposed to do if somebody has a stroke besides, I think you're supposed to ask them to smile to see if they can move both sides of their face. Look that up for me. Yeah.
They're supposed to smile, frown, etc. and see if they...
Yeah, you're supposed to ask them to smile. It's like some really simple shit, and I can't remember it now. We're looking that up quick. Yeah, I knew I was gonna say it's like somehow acronyms. Yeah.
Lots of balance.
Okay, so the acronym is B fast. Balance. B, loss of balance. This is like symptoms and stuff. Balance, loss of balance or coordination. E, eyes, changes in vision. F, face, drooping features on one side of the face. A, arms and legs, weakness in a limb. He's got that because his hands are limp. S, speech, difficulty speaking or understanding others. He did respond and say I'm fine, but still. Time, call 911 or emergency services right away. Hopefully they'll fucking do that because I think he just had a stroke. Where is that? I'm not short, but all of my sisters, even my younger sister Para, who is 2 years my junior, were taller than me. Between Vera and Omahe, I felt like a child standing between adult giants. "Papa, are you all right?" my sister Omahe asked. Yes, 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 our father insisted as his brothers helped him to sit down. My brother Bina joined Vera, Omahi, and me, his arms across his chest and a frown on his face. "Papa's always overdoing it," he said. "Stands all day in the shop working on the astrolabes and then comes down to dinner and still doesn't sit down." Now you see, Binti, Vera hissed. I could feel them all glaring at me now. What? What is happening? What do you mean? Why are we glaring at her?
Drama.
What's happening?
Manufactured.
Now you see, Binti, Vera hissed. I could feel them all glaring at me now. How long has he been? Since you left, really, Vera said, looking squarely at me. Bina and Omaihi looked at me too. What the fuck?
Were these people all not just getting along 5 seconds ago?
Yes, they were.
And they're not even in an emotionally driven state to do this. They're all just kind of sitting around each other.
Yeah. What? I asked. You think I caused it by leaving? Vera, also her father isn't speaking up in her defense and neither is anybody else. What the fuck is going on here? Vera scoffed and only continued glaring at me. So, glares. I looked. What the fuck? I looked to Bina and Omaihi for support, but they said nothing. Why are we pretending everybody else has just disappeared besides her Bina and Omaihi? Why is nobody else talking? Why isn't her father saying, "You two shut the fuck up"? I'm fine. I already said that 5 times. Like, what's going on here? That's so wrong, I said. It's the truth, Vera said, her voice sharply rising. I looked around. She meant everyone to hear. Binti, now that you're here, I think you need some tough truth. Before you have the nerve to disappear in the night again, Omaihi firmly added. Again, why isn't her father speaking up in her defense? Because he's clearly happy to see her. He's insisting he's totally fine. So why is he not speaking up in her defense? This doesn't fucking make sense. I didn't leave at night. I left in the early morning, I muttered. I took a deep breath. This is really boring really fast. Slipped my hand into my front pocket and grasped my Adan. It was mine, the object that I was studying at the university over a dozen planets away, a place my sisters, my family, had never set foot on. Vera stepped closer, leaning in as she looked down her nose at me. Her ochise-covered locks nearly reached her knees, and they made my okuoko look like buds to a tree full of blooming flowers. See, Papa, see, Papa, as in look at Papa. See, Papa! You were supposed to take over the shop so he could sit down and be proud. We're all very happy to see you, Binti, but you should be ashamed of yourself. Your selfishness nearly got you killed. Now she was pointing her index finger in my face. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. And again, still her father's not speaking up in her defense or his. He's insisting he's fine because, macho masculinity. We never get sick. But he's not speaking up on her defense, even though that would also mean speaking up and insisting he's fine. Okay. I guess everybody but these 3 have disappeared off the face of the world. There's just a blank void. Then what would Papa do? And even if you die, the world will move on. Who are you? You're not famous. Wait, what? Let me restart this dialogue. This doesn't make goddamn sense.
She is famous.
She literally is famous. We're all very happy to see you, Binti, but you should be ashamed of yourself. Your selfishness nearly got you killed. Now she was pointing her index finger in my face. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. Then what would Papa do? And even if you die, that's italicized, by the way, the world will move on. Who are you? You're not famous. What? Okay, what? First of all, that has nothing to do with anything. Second of all, yes, she literally is famous. Okay, so you're saying simultaneously, if you die, since you went away, you're making more work for our dad. But also, if you died, nothing would happen. Which is it? Which is it? And nobody would notice. And it's like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Is this supposed to be playing on, like, childhood fucking emotional abuse, saying she doesn't matter? What's going on here? And also, she literally is famous. What are we talking about? And again, nobody else is talking, including her father, including her mother, nobody. I was squeezing my Adan, but somehow I stayed quiet. The entire room was quiet and listening. Where were my parents? There they were, yards away. My father was sitting now, my mother and uncles beside him. All were just looking at us. Okay, finally we get told what they're doing. Okay. Doesn't make sense, though. You'll always be alone if you don't stop this and come home, my eldest sister added. Her voice wasn't as loud as Vera's, but it was much harder. Jumping back and forth between planets, you have to slow down. A few people in the room grunted agreement. I'm doing what I believe the Seven created me to do, I said, but my voice was shrill and breathless. I was dizzy from the strain of controlling my outrage, needing to say my piece and feeling the shame that had resided deep within me since I'd left. Do you even understand what I did on that ship? Everyone was dead except the pilot and me. I saw them do it. Then you befriended the enemy of humanity, my brother Bina said from behind me. And finally, at least we're saying something true now.
But that's a damn lie, I bet you.
I whirled around and said, No, the enemy of the Koosh people. You know, the people you've been railing against since you learned how to read. I turned back to Vera, who grandly sucked her teeth, and she looked me up and down with disgust. You're so ugly now, Binti, she said. You don't even sound the same. You're polluted. Almost 18 years old. What man will marry you? What kind of children will you have now? Your friend Dele won't even want to see you. That last part was like a snake bite. Maybe you shouldn't have come back, Vera growled, her face inches from mine. I could practically feel her keeping herself from punching me in the face. Do it, I told her with my eyes. I dare you. My cheeks were hot and my body had begun to tremble. Tremble.
Sorry, this is just hilarious. This is hilarious. This is not how this would think. There would be veiled insults. There would be a coldness leading up to this, and then tempers boiling over. That's not what this is.
And again,
This is bad writing.
yeah. Some of the girls here now want to do what you did, she said. You're supposed to be a master harmonizer. Look at you. What harmony did you bring here? I tried to grab even the simplest equation, 1 plus 1, 0 plus 0, 5 minus 2, 2 times 1. I tried to do what I did on that ship, when I held my own life in my hands, when I'd had a race of people who detested all humans because of a few humans. But every number eluded my mental grasp. All I could see was my sister's cheese-covered face with her long silver earrings that clicked to enunciate her words and her elaborate sandstone and gold marriage necklace that meant more to everyone here than my traveling to another planet to be a student at the greatest university in the galaxy. She stepped even closer. You bring dissonance. What if... Enough! I screamed at her, shaking with anger. Who are you, Vera? I couldn't find any more words. Instead, I inhaled sharply and then did something I never thought of doing, even when at my angriest. I spat in her face. It landed on her cheek. Immediately, I regretted my actions. However, instead of shutting up, I continued shouting. Do you have any clue who I am? Even as I carried the weight of my regret, it felt wonderful to roar like that at her, at everyone. I was about to say more when Vera shrieked, my saliva still glistening on her face. She scrambled back, falling over a chair. I hope it's made of acid. Her elbow knocked over a cup of water on a table, which rolled to the edge and shattered on the floor. I heard my father exclaim. Behind me, I heard Bina gasp and scamper away from me too. Vera raised her hands, shaking her head, and she whispered, I'm sorry, Binti, I'm sorry. Move away from her, I heard one of my uncles say. Everyone. Kai! Someone screamed. What is that? I saw my 4-year-old niece on the other side of the round table drop her drumstick of chicken and bury her face against the leg of my oldest brother, Omiva. He didn't notice her do this because he was staring at me, his mouth agape. People fled the room, covered their eyes, cowered in corners. I met the blank eyes of my mother and held them for a long time, and that was when I realized what was happening. My Akuoko, they were writhing atop my head again.
It really did look like a Medusa!
Yeah, I mean, that's what jellyfish are named after.
I know, but the fact that she's got no sensation in this thing, and then she apparently does have sensation in this thing, but not enough to notice, hey, my hair is moving around. I can feel, that's the thing I can feel.
Yeah.
Just like if I was waving my hands around.
Yep. What has happened to my harmonizing daughter? I heard my father softly ask. The peacemaker. She spits in her older sister's face. He pressed his right hand to his eyes. The joints were so gnarled. Okay, jackass. You're the chief harmonizer. She's the one who's supposed to replace you. Can you maybe do your job? But no. I let go of the Edan in my pocket and pressed my hand to my chest. The rage in me retreated. Papa, what did that place do to you? He asked, still covering his face. It's like, okay, just leave again. I don't give a fuck. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. I didn't know what it had done to me. It was there sometimes, and then sometimes it wasn't. I was peaceful, then all I could see was war. My siblings had been attacking me. How was peace going to help? I wanted to say these things. I wanted to explain them to them all. Instead, I fled the dining room. I left my family to continue talking about me in my absence as they had since I'd left. As I ascended the stairs, I heard them start in. Vera began, then my brothers. I slammed my bedroom door behind me and just stood there. My entire body was shuddering. I'd traveled so far to come home and rest in the arms of my family, and now I'd just cast myself out. No, they did. Even a masquerade has its people, only a ghost wanders alone, my father liked to say. I have to fix this, I desperately thought, but my mind was too full of adrenaline and fury to think of anything. The gift on my bed caught my eye. I unwrapped it and unfolded the silky wrapper, matching top and veil inside it, all of the deep orange color of Ochi's. Beautiful, I whispered. Lovely light and weather-treated material that would make walking in the desert under the noon sun like standing in the shade. A girl or woman's pilgrimage clothes were the most expensive and treasured clothes she would have until her wedding day. I laughed bitterly. These would probably be the most expensive and treasured clothes in my life. No marriage for me, I muttered. My words made me snicker to myself, and then I laughed harder. Soon I was laughing so hard that my belly muscles were cramping. When I calmed down, I listened, still hearing my family talking loudly in the meeting room. I shook out my pilgrimage clothes and laid them on my chair. I brought out my astrolabe and Edan and placed them side by side on my bed. And also, where's Aqua during all this? Not overhearing any of this? Not coming to the rescue? Nothing? I'm really disappointed her spit.
I thought the fucking octopus friend, not an octopus.
Uh-huh.
Janet voice, not an octopus.
Yes.
I thought they were in the room.
So did I. They're just hanging out in the little tent thing, because I guess it can't breathe in the atmosphere, even though we could have just given him a mask. I shut my eyes and was about to do one of the breathing exercises Professor Akpala had taught me when my astrolabe chimed. I'm baffled why her math teacher is the one teaching her this shit instead of her therapist, but whatever. Someone was trying to reach me. I paused. My eyes closed, going through a list of who it could possibly be. My sisters? Probably. My father? No. My mother? Possibly. My uncles or aunties? Likely. I opened my eyes and saw Dele's face filling the circle screen of my astrolabe. We literally still have not gotten a single fucking description of any astrolabe at all. He was looking down at his hands, as if he waited for me to accept his call. Dele, I said, and the notification chimes stopped. He looked up, seeing me, and we stared at each other. We hadn't spoken since I left. He wouldn't answer or return my calls, and he had never called me. He looked older now, and wiser. You have a beard, I blurted. It was light and fuzzy, but a beard it was. I've joined the Himba Council. He didn't smile as he conveyed this news. Then he just stared at me. I stared back. The Himba Council? Was he next in line to apprentice for Council Chief? Delay? Council apprentices weren't allowed to leave Himbaland. When had Delay become so rooted? From downstairs they still talked, voices raised. Now I heard my mother speaking, shouting. Shouting? That's a question. That's not dialogue, but it's a question there. How have you been? I finally asked. Here, he said. More silence. What do you want, Delay? Your sister messaged me to call you immediately, he said. What's going on? This is why you finally reach out to me? You were the one who left, not me. So? Silence. Delay. I couldn't tell you, I said. You just assumed I wasn't going, that I wasn't supposed to go. I wanted to, Delay, so badly. Haven't you ever wanted something with all your heart, yet not one person in my family, in my entire clan, wanted it for me? No, Binti, never. That would be selfish. I'm not Kush. Delay and I had known each other since we were babies, and as we grew older, Delay had begun to lean more and more toward embracing the deep himba way. Then why are you acting shocked that he's on the fucking council? Oh my god. We used to joke and argue about it, but our friendship always won out over the laws, rules, and mores. Plus, back then, his traditional leanings made him seem so strong and important, despite my dislike of it. Now he'd grown a beard. You can't give us this backstory saying that this shit is extremely predictable after you've said, oh my god, I could never predicted this. Like, come on. Come on. You're too complex, Binti, he said. That's why I stayed away. You're my best friend. You are, and I miss you, but you're too complex. And look at you. You're even stranger now. He pointed into the camera. You think you can cover those things with a cheese and I won't see them? I know you. I would like for this non-chapter to end already so I can stop talking already, but apparently not. I sat down hard on my bed, feeling breathless again. Had my sister told him about my akuoko? Could he really see them through the camera? They weren't even moving. What are you trying to accomplish with all this? He asked. I can see it in your face. You're not well. You look tired and sad and... Because of what just happened, I said. Why don't you ask me about that, instead of assuming the greatest choice I've ever made for myself is making me sick? Home is making me sick. I was fine until I got here. This wasn't all true, of course, but I needed to make my point clearly. We all love you, he said. You don't know how your leaving made your family suffer. Your father's business may have increased because of you, but his health has decreased. That doesn't bode well for our village. He's more our leader than our chief. He's master harmonizer, and people here. Ask your younger sister, girl cousins, how they get treated. You've stained them. Marriage won't be ... None of that's my fault. Delay paused and shook his head, chuckling softly. Then again, we were staring at each other. He waved a hand at me. I can't help you, Binti. Can't help you either, I snapped. I hear you're going on your pilgrimage tomorrow, he said. You have strange timing, but good luck. Thanks, I said, looking away. I trust you will take care of yourself, he said, coolly. Then Delay was gone, and for the first time it really sunk in. No man wanted a girl who ran away. No man would marry me. I pushed my astrolabe and Edan aside, lay on my bed, curled up, and cried myself to sleep. And we're finally at the end of the chapter. I'm pretty sure I'm wearing out my voice from talking too long. So we're on page 78. Let me put a bookmark and then I will beep, and see how many actual pages there are. We're on page 78, or well, we're on page 79 of... Scroll, scroll, scroll. Now it has to load again. What? It's frozen. $78 out of 160 is what page we're on. Okay, so I'm gonna go eat food now. Bye-bye. Unless you have any commentary before I click the button.
Other than the complete and utter lack of plot and all this stuff.